right, it's time, and it's that time of year. This is the game of the year, 2023, and I've got a packed house. We're gonna run through this. You gotta list them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. On the show, we got Anthony.
Yep.
We got Jay.
Buongiorno.
We got this new guy named Drew.
Yeah.
We got
That's
Terrence.
me.
What up?
And we got the Wombat.
Correct.
All right. If this is anybody's first time on the game of the year, we're already going to do 2024 because we're going to outdo Keeley. I need you to tell me what your best games of 2024 are.
2024?
2024. We got to pick them now.
Oh, okay.
God.
Got it. You're right.
All right. Yeah, we got to get ahead of the game.
Get ahead of the game. We got to outdo Keeley. Summer Game Fest is ours.
It's Yakuza, done. All right, moving on.
It's not Yakuza
the
anymore.
remastered version of Starfield.
That's the one. Starfield 2.0.
Remastered.
No, Last
Yep.
of Us 2
Is it-
Part 2. Last of Us Part 2 remastered. Come on.
I mean, that's
Oh, boy.
real, though.
I know.
The second remaster though of
I'm gonna.
Last of Us Part 2.
Remastered.
Right.
Shit. I just
Remastered.
I did something dumb and actually looked up games that are coming out, and I just found out about Rise of the Ronin.
Oh yeah, that game was
Oh
awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm waiting.
Shit.
Oh God, that's gonna be fire.
I mean, we got Fire in January. Well, we got Like a Dragon, Prince of Persia.
Like a Dragon. I'm
Tekken.
telling you,
Oh
Like
man.
a Dragon
Oh,
is the winner.
Yeah.
It has your
That Prince of
goddamn
Persia
Animal
game looks
Crossing.
awesome.
Like
It
like
does.
like a dragon will be my game of the year.
But it's the only game you're going to
There's
play.
there's no
all year.
denying it.
It's all year.
Drew's year ends in April though, so
Yeah. But I mean, that's
This
the
is
only
true.
game he's going to play. So.
And guess what? That's coming out.
All right, so the way this works is we all have a list of preferably 10 games, unless your name is Drew.
Yep. Or Anthony, apparently.
Did you not get 10? How did you not get 10 this year?
I got 10.
Oh, I
This
thought
is
you didn't have 10.
Anthony said he had 3, but he meant he had 3 honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I read that wrong. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got 10 games that are your top 10. We always do honorable mentions because there's especially this year there's just too many games.
I have special awards.
bro. No, this is gonna be good. You know what? I don't even have honorable mentions, so
You only
I don't-
got
I
10
didn't even-
games, really?
Well, I had a lot of stuff going on, so I was like trying to hurry up and get this done, man.
Fair
Like,
enough.
but as we talk though, I'm sure I'll be like,
Oh,
oh
yeah,
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 that was good.
it's-
That game was fire. Like,
Unless you
know.
go first, you're gonna move your list around and add some shit as you go.
Looking at last year's, because just inside baseball, I found my last year's list and shared it in our chat. And looking at Wombats immediately after, I went, oh, that's right. I forgot, I didn't have Vampire Survivors on it because I played it so late, but I think that was actually something I wanted to do an honorable mention for, and which I didn't include last year. So yeah, shit happens.
And
Andrew.
then usually people have some disappointments, which
I have a bunch.
I only have 3.
I think I
I've
only
got 3 as well.
I have 3 disappointments, but some of the other special awards are.
All right, well, why don't
So,
you?
okay,
All right, well,
next year.
we're gonna kick this off, get started. Anthony, why don't you go since you're gonna be the most long-winded, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, wait,
most
can I go first? I thought
Okay.
because I don't have honorable mentions. Like, I'm just going. Can I just run through my 10? Like,
I mean, if
do
you
that?
want to
Go
go
ahead.
first,
Okay. I mean, I don't want to steal your thunder, dog. If you want to go first, brother, you go
No,
ahead,
man.
man. I'm just okay. I'm gonna go first. Clear my throat.
Him.
Number 10, Fae Farm.
oh Jesus
Now,
Christ,
none
we're
of
off to
y'all
a bad
played this
His
start.
game.
list, your list is fucking pointless. All right.
Man,
fucking
I'm glad
Farmington's
I'm
fucking-
glad I showed up today.
What?
Listen, that's-
I still don't know what Fae Farm is.
I mean, it's right
Well,
there in
brother,
the name.
let me tell you. Let me tell you what Fae Farm
Okay.
is. So it's obviously it's a farming simulator, but
Sure.
it's you got there's fairies involved. So you start off in like the real world. Well, I know it's in the name, but you start off in like the real world, and as you get to know the villagers and stuff, there's this whole miasma that's like cloaking some of the land, and you uncover the I forget her name, like the godmother or whatever, and then she unlocks the realm, like the portal where you can go to the realm where the fairies are, and it's this whole separate town where you can have a house there, and there's like fairy creatures and there's fairy plants, so it's kind of like two games in one. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is one of those farming simulators. So it
So
has where you
it's more
go
like
ahead.
Harvest Moon. Would you say that's kind of what
Yes,
it is?
yes, yeah.
Is there any like combat or anything like that?
There is. So,
Okay, so Rune
in
Factory
the
then.
yeah, you know what? I have not played that one. I've heard about that because that from the
It's
Harvest Moon people?
yes, it is.
Yes, but it has
Okay,
a little bit of like exploration / combat to it.
okay.
Yeah, I've played some of those. They're okay. Would you say Moonlighter maybe?
I mm, I think it sounds more like it's like Rune Factory because there's
Okay,
exploration, like there's stuff there's like parts of the map that's blocked off where you have to get to a certain point or get a certain thing to knock down this objective, and then it opens up a different part of the map, and then you can explore this area. So yeah, it sounds like it's more like the Rune Factory.
gotcha.
Um than Moonlighter. I love Moonlighter. I was playing that the
Moonlighter
other
is
day. That game is
fantastic.
great.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, the game's
Um
excellent.
but yeah, so I mean, Faith Farm. It's on the list because I spent a lot of time playing it this year with the missus. It's really my wife's genre of choice, and we
Hey,
play those games
I
together.
I only kid. I have no interest in farming sims.
Oh, no, listen, now, you know me. I ain't took none of that personally. I'm tripping because it's on my list,
I'm
like I
just
normally
saying,
would be.
like
But
to me, you lose me right there. It's like Ken with anything that's randomized or Souls.
right, I got you. But yeah, so Faith Farm now number 9, and I'm probably gonna get some guff from y'all because it's so low on my list. But Tears of the Kingdom
I mean,
is
this
number
this
9
list
on mine.
is already just not any good.
I
You
know
can.
this is.
Mine's not even on my
It's because
list
you didn't
because I didn't
play
play
it.
it. Exactly. So there you go.
But yeah. But I liked Tears of the Kingdom a lot. I haven't finished it. I got the Master Sword and like got the, cinematics for that and stuff, and that, man, that's a thing. But anyways, I like that game. Love that game. The building is cool. I don't know. There was a lot of other stuff this year. That was my thing, and Zelda
I'm going
wasn't
to
like a.
judge every game going forward as like, wow, that's better than Zelda. You are not a gamer.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Here we
that's
go.
fine. That's fine. And I expected that. So that's cool. So number 8 is Everspace 2. Everspace 2
Okay,
is
all right,
a
shut up, Ken.
space. It's a space game. It's like freelancer. So there's a storyline throughout, but I mean you're kind of dropped in this conflict, and then you get to a certain point where you pretty much are free to do your own thing. Like you can go, mine, you can go bounty hunt, you can, run missions, you can progress the story, set up bases, you can go pirate. Like there's a bunch of different stuff to do. And as I've said on the show, lots of times space, that's my jam. So Everspace 2 is a fantastic game.
But is
Is
it
that a lot
Space
like
Jam?
Elite?
Ha! In the Space Jam. What'd you say?
Is that a lot like Elite? Elite Dangerous?
Space.
It
Man, I
is.
forgot about space.
It is. It has elements of Elite, but Elite is, I think, it's bigger than Everspace 2 is.
Gotcha.
So pretty much everything you can do in Elite, you can do in Everspace, but just on a smaller scale. So I mean,
Gotcha.
like, you can, yeah. Because I like Elite too. I wish they would bring the Odyssey, and I think it got canceled. The Odyssey expansion to console,
I think
where
they
they
did.
added,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm gonna have to buy it for upgrade on my PC copy. Number 7 was Wild Hearts,
God, I
which
forgot that came out. Shit.
Oh,
I
Wild Hearts.
yeah, really Monster Hunter World was my first real monster hunting game that I got into, and then I played Rise on PC and fell more in love with it because of really the movement system and stuff that they added in Rise. Like I like that way more. The only knock I have for the Monster Hunter series is damn them controls they got a lot of shit going on with their controls.
You ever
Wild
played
Hearts,
Tweakedin?
I don't tweak it in.
No,
Not
I think I have.
Tweakedin.
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 Coden, whatever the.
Tweakedin.
I don't
Oh
fucking
no,
know
I
how to
didn't.
pronounce it. They
That's
made
right.
2
Tweak it
of
is the
them. but
RPG.
They made two
They
of
actually
them.
made
I
3.
played that.
They
oh, they
actually
made
three.
3.
One was a
Shit.
remake.
Oh fuck.
Yeah,
Uh,
one was a
Two-
remake of the first one.
2 Vitas and then 1 console, I believe.
Those are solid monster hunting games.
What was the other one? God
Okay.
Eater?
God Eater is another
God
one.
Eater.
Yeah.
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 I've
There's a
played
lot-
that.
there's
I
a lot of
have
those,
God Eater
yeah.
3. I think God Eater. I want to say I have God Eater 3. I think on Switch or something. I played some of it, but I haven't. I didn't realize it was a monster hunting game like that though. Nice.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that. I got God Hunter 3 in one of the Humble bundles. I need to check it out at some point, but I still haven't booted it up.
Who makes
Yeah.
two kid in? It's somebody who makes something
That's
else.
Koei
Tecmo.
Tecmo.
Koei Tecmo,
But like
yeah.
which is it Omega
Oh,
Force
that's
that
good.
makes
I
it?
believe so.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
Omega
what
Force
I was
makes
thinking.
it.
Like the Dynasty Warriors guys, Monster Hunter, basically.
Yeah, it is
Damn.
Omega Force.
It's solid. It's solid. I liked it.
Yeah, it
It's
plays
very
well.
it's
yeah.
very arcadey compared to Monster Hunter, which you might
Yeah.
like more.
Yeah.
Which is why, which kind of translates to Wild Hearts, which is why I like Wild Hearts a tad more because it's more arcadey and actiony than Monster Hunter. Like I really do like Monster Hunter a lot, but this just being able to get on there with a katana and go ham, or actually I can't even think of the name of the weapon. It was the swinging. The hook weapon that I used, like the pulling off some of like the different moves and stuff, it was a lot of fun. The combat in that was a lot of fun. Number 6, RoboCop Rogue City.
That game is good.
Uh,
Y'all motherfuckers missing out.
that game is really good despite its awful freaking save checkpoint system.
Fucking
Like,
checkpoints suck.
Jesus Christ, it's awful. Like, so if you sit down to play RoboCop, you need to sit down to play RoboCop. Don't be like, oh, I got a couple minutes. Let me shoot some people in Detroit. Nah, nigga, because you ain't gonna be able to save. So you're gonna have to use the game resume or whatever. Because it's but that game is solid. Like I reviewed it. Like it's a really good game. Top 5. Here we go. This is everything that's better than Tears of the Kingdom to me. All right.
It's a lie.
Number 5, Dave the Diver.
That's definitely not better than Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, man, whatever, man. I loved Dave the Diver. I know, Ryan Trout, you played it and it wasn't your jam, but like as far as just a chill game, like when you just trying to vibe out and just sit back and just chill, like Dave the Diver is it. Like you deep sea exploring and fishing, and it has the storyline, and then there's different, like there's boss monsters and stuff that you fight, which is fun, and then it's the comedy and stuff in there is it's not knee slapper hilarious, but you're like oh, fat people, because it's he's an overweight diver, and there's a lot of fat jokes in there. Listen, y'all see me on don't nobody send me no hate. You see me on the Twitter, I'm not skinny, so fuck you. Anyway, I could talk about fat people. Anyway, so Dave the Diver is a great game. Like if you just want to chill out, I wish it would come to Xbox. Like I think right now it's only on PC and Switch, if I'm correct.
Yes, it is not on anything else.
Okay, I would imagine they're gonna port it because I saw they just hit like 5 million sales or something crazy, which is good for them.
It'll probably be one of those like, here's on Game Pass. Wee.
Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, I would get that again. That's a good game.
They got that Dredge DLC going too.
Yeah, the crossover.
Yeah, the
I haven't
crossover.
gotten to that stuff yet either. Like I have, the update stuff, but I haven't gotten to the Dredge.
I'm surprised
DLC
as shit that you ain't found a fucking under the sea Shovel Knight in that game. Truthfully,
Really?
that motherfucker is in everything.
But Dave is not like well, first of all, it's not an indie, and second, it's not an indie from North America.
Yeah, but
Or
still, Shovel Knight
Europe.
just everywhere.
That's where Shovel Knight comes. Shovel Knight comes into the Western stuff, not
He
the
do
Eastern
show
stuff.
up at a lot of stuff though. Damn, Shuffle
He does.
a lot.
And boy, was I tired of seeing him.
Yeah, I was like, dude. As soon as I saw him in Ukulele, I think that was like the tipping point. I'm like,
That was when he was like, oh, "Okay, I'm done with Shovel Knight," and it's like, "Yeah, but he's still going to be in 17 other things this year."
Anyway.
that
Doing
motherfucker was in
Ukulele.
2 Smash Brothers clones.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
in
I
Smash
remember
Brothers, he's in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
He's just an assist.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
he
didn't
everywhere,
know that.
man. He everywhere.
He's in that fighting game from. He's in the fighting game, I
The
believe.
anime
and
fighting game.
The anime
Yeah.
fight. Yeah, what the hell was that game called?
From Nicholas. And then they also had the Crystal Crisis, which I think he was in.
He was all. Yeah, he's in the fighting game with what's the
Isaac.
little Binding of Isaac dude.
what the?
Yeah,
When did Shovel Knight become so popular? I don't think I even played his original game.
his original
His
game
original
is a
game
10 out
is
of 10.
That's
It's
fine.
10
is
out of
Yeah.
10.
amazing.
Huh. Okay.
You played
All right.
the original Shovel Knight is like that was the indie renaissance right there. Like that
It's
was
called-
the game.
The game is called Blade Strangers,
That's the one. Yeah, it's on Switch and PlayStation, I think.
and it's the weirdest mashup. Just quickly, 1001 Spikes, Coda Princess Cave Story, Gunvolt, Binding of Isaac, Shovel Knight,
It's a weird
and
game.
It's all
Umihara
indie
Colossae.
games. Yeah.
It's
Just
actually
weird.
good though. It's actually kind of good.
It actually
Is
looks neat, like art style wise too. Like,
Yeah, it's a good game.
Wasn't there a game like that that was like a Smash Bros. Clone, but like Guacamelee was in it,
that's,
and
that's
like
one of the ones that he is
Is
in
that-
as well.
Yeah.
oh, okay,
I don't
okay,
remember that
okay.
game name, but like yeah, he's also
I
was
can't
in,
either.
he's also in the Ubisoft one, isn't he?
Is he in Brawlhalla?
Yes,
That's the
I believe
Ubisoft
so.
one.
Yes.
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 Yeah, that's Brawlhalla. Yeah,
I told you that dude
Man.
is everywhere.
yeah, he is. Jesus. Okay.
He had a really good game, so
He
to be
did.
fair.
He did.
He's like Slash in that South Park episode. They were talking about Slash being everywhere.
It's Shovel
In,
Knight.
Shovel
In the
Knight.
video games, it's Shovel Knight.
Okay, number 4 is Sea of Stars. It's really good. Old school RPG. Fantastic music, great combat. The story is really good, like, and it has a lot of depth to it. Love Sea of Stars. Number 3 is Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, that's a
Um,
shocker.
I know. It's crazy that it's on this list even at all. It's wild. I'm not even gonna wax poetic about it. I mean, I already wrote a review, and I'm sure it's gonna come up on almost everybody's list on here. Definitely not Ken's,
Nope.
but
Nope.
probably
Nope.
everybody else I think might see it. Yeah, Baldur's Gate is a great game. I mean, it's a whole experience. I mean, if you haven't played it, play Baldur's Gate. Like, I mean, goodness. Number 2 is Hogwarts Legacy. I loved Hogwarts Legacy. I am.
It's a
It
great
was
fucking video game. And I don't even like
Absolutely.
Harry Potter.
Yep, and that's what I was going to say. If even if you took the Harry Potter stuff away from it, I would recommend that game. Like it is a great game. Like, it had a great story. Like, the open world stuff is done really well. They don't necessarily bombard you with, well, later in the game you kind of get like a lot of different objectives, but I mean, you can choose how you want to do it. So I mean, you could literally role play this game as a student and attend these different classes if you really wanted to do that and experience. Like, it is a solid game. Like, I mean, the combat is fun. Like, yeah, I hope they do more with it. The only thing I missed was I wish they had some Quidditch in there, which is, if you know Harry Potter, that's their
Wait, they
sport.
don't have Quidditch?
Nah, man, you could fly on a broom, but you can't.
I knew you
can't play
could fly on a
Quidditch.
broom, so I assumed Quidditch would be there. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. All right, whatever.
Yep.
Fuck it.
Everybody
That's
was
so they
hoping
can-
for like a DLC or something, but they
That's
didn't.
so they
They
can
haven't.
sell you a Quidditch game on its own. Maybe it's
That's
like
what's-
maybe
Well,
maybe they have
that's
to
what's
get
coming.
They did that.
maybe they have to
once.
get Quidditch rights. You know, like you.
You gotta get the official
No,
Quidditch
EA
Players Association.
Yeah, Players Association.
EA snapped that license up.
The
Hasn't
EA
given
Sports
up.
Quidditch. It's in the game.
They made the original the Quidditch game back in the
They
day.
made the
'cause
original
had the
Harry Potter games.
license. Yeah, yep.
And the
Um,
PC ones were pretty good.
They were, yeah. So there is a Quidditch game coming, a standalone Quidditch game coming. It's free to play. I was in some of the play tests for it. I think I think it comes early this year. I won't play it, but for those people that like want to play Quidditch, you're gonna have a good time. Like, it's Quidditch, and they managed to work the different nuance. Again, if you're a fan of the book, but the nuances of that game in there and make it kind of controller friendly. Like, it's not really overwhelming, but sports games like that's not for me. But yeah, it's coming. Number 1 for me, Alan Wake 2.
Wow.
Alan Wake 2. I complain about that game, and I will continue to complain about that game until they fucking fix it, because that audio sync is atrocious, and oh my god. But if you take that away and the weird T-posing bugs that I got and some of the other weird stuff, phenomenal game. and experience. Like for a fan, especially, I can't recommend it enough. Like they tie up so many loose ends that have been, out there from the first game and even American Nightmare. They bring different stuff together, and even, leave it open for more. And also, if you are invested in Control, because I still haven't beat that, and this actually makes me really want to finish it. They expand on that universe, like Control's influence, the whole Federal Bureau of Control, is all throughout Alan Wake 2. Like they definitely are building towards something big there, and I'm here for it. Like Alan Wake 2 is just an excellent game. Oh my god! I guess the only real other complaint outside of the issues they can fix is that I wish there was more from the final boss. But outside of that, because if I go too deep, that's a spoiler. But I wish there was more. And if you played it, I feel like you would probably feel similar. But God, that game is good. And Saga, oh my God, Saga is such a fantastic addition, and how they weave her into the narrative and stuff that was already outlined from the first game oh my God, like this, it's so good. Like I'm so excited to see where they go with this universe. And that's it, man. That's my top 10.
All right. Well, now Anthony, you can
All right.
Take it away.
Most beds shitted award. Which means they shit in the most amount of beds. Embracer.
Nice.
Embracer gets
Oh,
my
my.
most bed shitted award, you fucking idiots. Your whole business crumbled because you couldn't make the partnership happen. You shouldn't have fucking bet at all, assholes. Where's my goddamn Kickstarter rewards award? Ugh. Night Dive. Where's my shit? I paid for that back in like 2016.
They got bought
For-
by
for-
Atari
for-
now.
For what?
so-
For what game?
System Shock. I have not been able to play it.
System Shock
We got
the
mine
one,
either.
The remake.
The remake
The remake,
then-
yeah.
that came out, but you didn't get your backer stuff.
So
Mm-mm.
here's the problem. When back in the day,
which was
when
a Wednesday.
yeah, right. When you made your payment, it asks you what digital code you wanted, because the idea was it was going to launch on all things simultaneously. That is not the case, and we've also moved into another console generation. So I said PS4 code, because I'm like, you're going to hand me a physical copy of the PC version, so I might as well get 2 console codes. But it hasn't come out on anything. They
Nope.
haven't offered to change my code, and my physical rewards aren't here.
Yeah,
Like-
that's the issue with Kickstarter. Any
It's
kind of backer
they were the
thing.
last one I've ever doing, so
Yeah. I mean, I think the more you take a chance at these things, the more times you get burned. I think I've only backed like 2 projects so far, and the first one was that the big one from Double Fine, that remember that adventure
Broken
game
Age.
that came out?
Broken Age.
Yeah,
Was it-
Broken Age.
yeah.
Yeah, so they ended up having to break that game up into 2 parts. It was a mess. Like I enjoyed the first part, but didn't like the second part at all, and all this other stuff. So you're basically gambling with your money. So you gotta be careful with that.
Yeah,
So you gotta
I
really
look-
believe in it. Yeah,
I
and
look-
not feel bad if you end up wasting the money. I also backed the Arm Fantasia and Penny Blood, which is the spiritual successor to Wild Arms and Shadow Hearts game that's coming out. So this is the case where I'm so passionate about these franchises that if I never get these games, I'm still glad I took a chance on them anyway.
Here's
Kind of
my
deal,
issue.
and that's the only
It's
time
not.
that I would do Kickstarter.
It's not that the game didn't come out, which I'd already
Yeah.
faced that because they had canceled it at one point, because they had stopped doing a remake and just started doing their own game. And I backed them because Night Dive is one of the best remaster studios around. Like, all the boomer shooters that have been ported are usually from them, and it shows when it's not. So I had faith in them even back then, and my issue is not that I don't have my physical rewards. My issue is that, like, I don't have anything, and other people have played it. So that's where I'm like, where's my shit? Anyways, next
gotcha.
award, 2 bad sequels for one game, which is an impressive award because I don't know too many games that get 2 sequels based off the same title. Like Drakengard technically is one, and while the games are janky, like Nier and Drakengard 2 are nowhere near like technical masterpieces. They're not bad games. This one has 2 bad games, and that goes to Flashback, because I don't think anyone remembers Flashback 2 came out this year.
Yeah, we were supposed to get a code and it never showed up, and I
It's
probably guess why, because it's terrible.
Yeah, it's notoriously bad, and that's impressive because that means it joins Fade to Black.
Oh man, Fade to Black, that is a bad video game.
Right, like impressive that the same game got 2 very bad sequels. I wanted to call this something else, but I thought it'd be a little bit more polite and just called it the Greediest Release Award, which goes to Red Dead Redemption on Switch. And I just wrote $50, get gymmed.
Get gymmed.
My favorite title of any video game this year goes to, yeah, you want those games, right? So here you go. Now let's see you clear them. Because it's exactly what it says it is. It's all those awful mobile app ads that don't look anything like the game turned into real games. And it's not bad. So games I just think are bad that got released this year, I wouldn't say they're disappointments, because I didn't really have, like, disappointment means I kind of had faith in it. Clive and Wrench, which is just one of the most unfun 3D collectathons I've ever played. And Exoprimal, which is just boy, I do not know who you made this game for. Like, what audience?
Hey, man.
Parents.
We have
Fucking
Parents and
Parents
teens
Put it
and
on my
audience.
list.
Yeah.
It's-
Dino
I
Crisis
hate it
die
here.
for Exoprimal.
to
I
me,
hate it here.
well, to me, here's the thing: is it a terrible concept? I guess not, but it's also another one of those games in
Yeah.
a genre that is way too filled. Of course, it's not going to succeed. Also, people have been screaming for Dino Crisis for over a decade, and you finally get so close, and you bring dinosaurs into a shooter, and you just won't give
Fumble
the
the
people
bag.
what they want.
Right.
Your Resident Evil series could, like, you could literally say, from the people who remastered Resident Evil, or like made Resident Evil 2 remake and all this stuff, and just have them do Dino Crisis. I just don't get it. It wasn't like it was a terrible game, but I think the problem with it was so boring. Like, there's nothing. It is a 5. It is unmemorable. The
Yep.
only reason why I remembered it came out was I looked through a list of games that came out this year.
The Game Pass quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so disappointments. WarioWare Move It. I'm sorry, that game should have been better. I would have preferred a straight port of the Wii game for what this one was. And the new voice actor, Kevin Afghani, I believe is his name. He nails Mario, but he doesn't do a good Wario. It felt like a cash-in, or like these were ideas someone had came up and they just kind of quickly packaged them together. I don't know. It just didn't feel as good as a WarioWare. It's probably my least favorite WarioWare game. And I've played basically all of them, except for like DIY and the DSi game. Like, disappointing. Is it a bad game? No, it shouldn't have been even as much money as the last WarioWare game with the amount of content it has. Crash Team Rumble. Man, this game is a lot of fun, but another DOA, like, just, you're not gonna have an audience. There's too many of these things. This needed to be free too.
Yep.
Because
That would have been on my list of disappointments.
kids play free games, and like Crash isn't the same name it used to be. So like, I wish they had done more. It's such a colorful cast of characters, and they finally bring Spyro in, but it's just like, man, the audience is gone. Like, it needs to be put on Game Pass. I think
Yeah, it
Game
does.
Pass could revitalize it, but
If
Absolutely.
Crash hadn't been in Skylanders, my son would have no idea who Crash Bandicoot is.
right.
That's
And
wild
it's-
to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, they even dropped Spyro's name from Skylanders because Spyro's
They did.
who cares, right?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't use Spyro or Crash as the main selling characters. There's like a fish guy I remember, and like a rock golem looking guy, and those were the people that were selling Skylanders, not Spyro or
Yeah.
Crash. So
Now
like,
Spyro was in the Skylanders
Original.
cartoon.
And so is Cinder.
He was.
Cinder is another Spyro character from the
Yeah.
weird Elijah Wood series. So it's not like, anyways, I think this game still has a lot of potential, and I think it's actually one of the best structures for an online game. There's nothing else like it. It's this weird 3D collectathon that is against other people. I've never seen anything like it, and it feels really good to play. It's fun.
Yeah, we had a good time.
So it's unlike
No.
Disappointments. You didn't have a good time.
You're just a hater.
Whatever. Well, it's okay. I'm about to piss Ken off, I'm sure, because it's on his list. I'm sure.
Watch it.
Disappointments. Atomic Heart. I will say this. Wow, way better than I expected it was going to be. I mean, truly, I thought this game was going to come out and be shit because I'd watched it for a decade. But it is okay. It just didn't feel fun to play, which is weird. Like, the combat was so not fun, and then the amount of updates I was getting constantly just made me not want to play it. It just felt like a chore at a certain point. And I've heard that game opens up and is really interesting, but I just, if there's going to be a lot of game, it's got to be fun to play, and I didn't find it fun to play. And now, a weird special mention for a special mention, because I wouldn't say it's like an amazing game, but like Justice League Cosmic Chaos has no right being as good as it is. Like, none whatsoever.
That game is pretty fun.
It is well written. And like, I saw that Outright Games badge and immediately went, I am in for some shit. This is the best thing they've probably published ever. I hope this studio gets to work on more comic stuff because they clearly cared. Metroid Prime is in my first special mention because it's one of the best games ever. I just don't feel like I could put it on the list because, like, it's Metroid Prime. It's just Metroid Prime. There's not a lot of changes to it. Like, visual changes, yes. But, like, it's one of those, it only looks like you remember sort of games. Because,
but
like,
it controls so much better.
Sure, but Metroid's had remaster, like, Metroid Prime has been remastered twice now, technically.
It's because it's a fucking one of the best games
amazing
ever
game,
made.
But I'm just saying, it's like, it's a remaster after a remaster is not as impressive to me. Like, the 17th release of, like, whatever game, like, the Skyrim is not as impressive as Skyrim.
That's crazy, because I know Drew and I are going to share a game that's been remade about, 400 times.
There's remasters on the list, but that was the reason why I couldn't put Metroid Prime on. If they added content, like real content, like substantial stuff, I'd go, okay, easily coming on the list, but not
coming on the list.
I almost put it on mine. Wow. Yeah, we're gonna clip that. I almost put it on my list because it was actually my first time ever playing it.
It's not mine. That's the reason why I couldn't.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, totally. But yeah, I put it on mine.
This didn't make my list because technically it's a 2022 game. But the DLC came out in 2023, and that's when I played it, which is Case of the Golden Idol. Amazing game. I wouldn't say the first DLC is fantastic. I thought the puzzles were a little convoluted. But the second set of DLC, which added in sort of like solving it over time, like a length of time, which was really interesting. I loved it, but again, 2022, not really a great fit. Ghost Trick, the same thing as Metroid Prime, great game. It's still just the same game. Not real any big changes. It looks amazing, and I thought it controlled better when not using a stylus. But then now here's the 10 games. Number 10 is Dredge. I wish I spent more time with this. The demo didn't win me over, but upon playing the full thing, I kind of got it. And
it's great.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's kind of a combination of the inventory system of Resident Evil mixed with like a run-based game, but it's not a roguelike, it's just run-based because every day, I mean, you can stay out. I wouldn't suggest it. Really neat. Well done horror too, which is not like what I'd expect from a game that is based around fishing, but not like directly fishing like most fishing games are. It's weird. I now know why it was a hard sell for me, because like it didn't make sense, but like I went into it with the right mindset and fell in love. Number 9 is World of Horror. I spoke about this game enough times that you would think it'd probably be higher on my list. And while I really enjoyed it, I started looking into stuff that I was like, I can't solve. There's a case that if you take a certain ending, you get broken VHS tapes. And I said to myself, okay, I have a VCR. I need to find someone that can repair them. They're probably in the city. So I walked around and I couldn't find anybody. So I looked it up. And there is nothing to get them repaired. Even though the game says, hey, someone can probably repair these, there's no one to repair it. And you have a VCR in your apartment that does nothing really. It's this weird, like, unfinished concept that's still in the game, and there's a bunch of those. And apparently this game has been pretty much what it is now for quite some time in early access, and a lot of people are saying 1.0 really didn't finish the game in any sense. And that dropped into my list because essentially what I'm playing is very good but clearly unfinished. Just kind of put out to be making money. And so it's disappointing. And then the Switch version isn't optimized and should be fine. It's kind of a mess. I still love it. I still play it, but it is one of those things where it's like, I can't put it any higher knowing that. 8 is Disney Illusion Island. It's a Metroidvania where there's only platforming, no combat. And it works really well. I wish the world had a little bit more going on, like, character-wise. Like, it's very much you're kind of just platforming in geometric shapes. It's pretty looking, but each area doesn't feel all that different from one another. But really well done game. Very much in line with the Mickey cartoons it's based off of, which I recommend everybody watch. Here's a remake. We love Katamari Reroll and Royal Reverie. This is the best Katamari game. It gets worse from here when they start remastering stuff. And I like Beautiful Katamari, but Beautiful Katamari, the real charm was it was the first time, and honestly, even when there was another HD game, it was still the best looking one. It was an HD Katamari. That's kind of what Beautiful Katamari had to work off of. Well, now I have the best Katamari game in HD, and they added content. I really don't know what to say other than that, because it's Katamari. It's just really smart. I gave it a 10, but again, it is a remaster, and it's a little hard for me to put up because it's like there's a ton of stuff done to it, and you've been able to get other Katamari games in the interim, and they all sort of satisfy the same itch. There's nothing. There's other Katamari games that can replace the feeling of we love Katamari, but if you've played them all, this is the best one to play. Number 6 is Super Mario Wonder. It's a great game. I had trouble deciding 6 and 5 on my list. I put Mario at 6 because while it starts off more difficult, it never really gets all that more difficult at the end. Like, I don't feel like the challenge was increasing throughout my playtime. In fact, at some points it felt easier because of the badges. So it's a great game. I'm really glad that it has as much character as it does. When New Super Mario Brothers started to feel very clinical, and just out there to print money. This has real passion behind it. It shows. I want more of it, but I also want it to be more difficult. Like, I want that extra content that all the other Mario games in the last little while have been offering with their sort of post-game content. Number 5 is Tears of the Kingdom. I prefer Breath of the Wild, is just what it comes down to. It's a great game. The story, certain aspect of the story really bothered me, and it really made it hard to go back, though. But If you can if that's not something that bothers you, and for most people, I don't think it does. For some reason, it hit a nerve where I was just like, yeah, that's too disturbing for me. I, so be it. But yeah, it's still an amazing game. I just also don't love the building mechanic. I sort of still love the powers in Breath of the Wild because it still felt like all those traditional Zelda powers in some way. Number 4 is Super Mario RPG. It's just nostalgia. I'll admit it. I fall prey to it, even though I hate it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite games from my childhood because it was the first time Mario was anything more than like a guy that ran left to right on my screen. I fell in love with all the tertiary characters, and then I never got any more of them because we got Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi. So to see this return meant a lot. I also have always loved the sort of rendered art style that we sort of lost because we could do better rendering. And they do a really good job of still kind of making all the characters feel like that and look better. And they did add content. It's just not stuff where I'm like, I think it's amazing content that they've added, just kind of number tweaking. But nevertheless, I love this game. I'm sorry. I hate being the nostalgia bait guy, but I fell for it. But number 3 is Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, a game based on a series I have no nostalgia for, and I loved it. Surprisingly enough, like the gameplay was really good, and the music's good, of course. It's got a lot of art style, but I actually think this might be my favorite story of any game in 2023. Is it the best story? No. I think there's stories that are better written, but it's so uniquely weird. And I bought every part. Like they sold me so well on every part of it. I'm like, yeah, this is such a unique story. Like this can only be told in this art style. This can only be told in a video game. Not like in a meta way, just like I don't think you'd be more as accepting of the plot twist in a movie. Like this is so fucking weird. I loved it and I was addicted to it, and I still listen to the music from it and feel the same feelings I had when I was playing the game of exploring these sort of urban environments. Man, fuck, that's such a good feeling. Number 2 is Baldur's Gate 3. It's another one where it's like, well, you kind of automatically win. I play D&D every week, and I have for almost 9 years now. This is D&D, but a video game. And I'm choosing to experience it as essentially a second D&D session for the week. I'm not saying it doesn't deserve the second spot, but it does get a hefty advantage upon it already being a fantastic title. I feel like it's gonna fuck up a lot of people's expectations of RPGs for the next little while because of how many fucking options there are. But I mean, like, it was going to be, if it weren't for this next game, it would be number 1. But number 1 is Pikmin 4, which is all the shit I love in video games. Being small in a normal sized world. Well, fucking goddamn, that's one of my favorite stupid ideas. I love it in like all media. I don't love the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like the movie, the story is kind of boring, but I watch it because it has some of the coolest shit in it. And playing through that is great. Chibi Robo is one of my favorite GameCube games. I bought it the day it released because I saw it in Nintendo Power and wanted it. Clockwork Knight, I grew up playing that. So like Pikmin 4 also gets an advantage for like just being the thing I already like. But I've also played the other Pikmin games and I liked Pikmin, and this is a better version of Pikmin in every way as well. And the changes they've made allow me to explore like it's a collectathon, which I also love. Like it's all the fucking peanut butter and fucking chocolate for me, just smeared into one. It's every piece of Nintendo I like just the charm of a Nintendo game. Like it's in here in spades. Ochi is one of the cutest designs I've seen in a while. Just maybe not in the like stills but like when he's in motion and he's a living character in the game, like there's something about it. Like nobody can do this as good as Nintendo. How did they sell me on a dog that has two legs and looks like the monsters that eat my Pikmin? Like, I don't know, but they did it because that's what Nintendo does really well. I'm sorry, like, this is a perfect game. Like, to me, everything was done right. There wasn't a spot where I went, man, they could do this better. It was stolen from me. Like, I can still see flaws in Tears of the Kingdom. It still has all the problems that Breath of the Wild has, right? The deteriorating weapons, and there might be fixes around that, but it's still there. There's still fundamental parts that could be changed to make that game even more amazing. I don't think you could do that with Pikmin 4. I think like it's going to have to either change drastically again, or the next couple of games are just going to be new maps in this style. It's one of those, this is changing sort of what the expectations are of the series. Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty honest here at the year that it was my favorite game. But, I'm sorry, I wasn't going to change. I made my call. And that's it for me. And there's no more stupid awards. I had already given them out.
All right. Anybody want to go next? Anybody want to volunteer? Or
I can go next.
You want to go next? You were going to be my pick anyway, so there you go.
Well, there you go. Well, so I've played 7 games that came out in 2023. And one of which is I put disappointment with a question mark. And that is Starfield.
Space!
And the reason why is because much like No Man's Sky, I played 2 hours of this game when it released and have yet to go back to it. And I think that kind of says it all.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'll ever go back to it.
I couldn't put it on my disappointments because I wasn't hyped for it, but I totally get it. Like, this game just...
It is... Listen, I played 50 hours of it and it's on mine. So...
Yeah.
I just, I don't know what it was. Like, I adore Skyrim. I adore Oblivion, Fallout. Like, I'll play any of those games any day of the week. For some reason, maybe I'm burned out on those games. Like, maybe when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, I'll be...
You're not.
You're burned out on this specific game.
This game is just...
And in 2 hours?
Yes.
It's hard. Like, people will tell you it gets better later, and it does, but it still doesn't get, like, great.
Yeah, no, and it is a game that is almost built to be as burnout prone as it possibly can be. I'll talk more about it when we get to mine, but it's trust me when I tell you, it's not the genre; it's the game.
No,
as an outsider, I'll say it now. All the complaints about Starfield feel like Starfield is just the collection of all the problems they've had in other games. Like, weight limit, ammo, building things, like all the things that people have complained about, like as the only, Fallout 4 is really good, except for the building, stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, let's do all those complaints, but like together as one.
It's just kind of boring.
In the 2 hours, I got some kind of cough, and I have yet to be able to get rid of it. And and it was
Terrence
stopping
had
me.
That problem as well.
Yeah,
it was stopping me from being able to run as good as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't want to play this anymore, and I stopped.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the best decision.
Yeah, so, I joined the Constellation. Is that the name of the company?
Constellation.
Yeah,
I joined them, and then that's where I stopped.
Yeah,
yeah. That would be on my disappointment list, and it's not even because of the stuff that you named are problems to be sure. But my biggest disappointment with that game, and I've spoken about it, is the space stuff. Like I was so hopeful for being able to and I think they had dispelled some of that before, but even that was there. Like it's literally just loading screens. Takeoff is a loading screen. Warp into a planet is a loading screen. Landing is a loading screen.
about like some of the smaller buildings in like Fallout or Elder Scrolls. Like you're loading and you go into this very tiny environment.
I mean, that's a
Correct.
planet
It's like-
in Starfield. They feel
Right.
small.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
the whole game wants to create an illusion of depth with a whole lot of breadth instead, and it's it's just not as deep as it wants to pretend it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Like sci-fi's never really been my jam more than fantasy has. So maybe Elder Scrolls will be my jam. Who knows?
I mean, if it's like this, it won't be because I'm a sci-fi guy, and Skyrim is like light years better than this game.
Yeah, but I just think their approach overall, Bethesda's approach overall, doesn't translate well to an outer space style game.
Yeah,
And
I
they
think so.
they made a decision. They wanted to make an outer space style game without making an outer space game. I think it'll translate much better to the Elder Scrolls setting or even a Fallout setting.
Yeah.
If the game had been marketed as, like the Outer Worlds, right, there would be a lot different.
Yeah.
Not just marketed, but developed like the Outer
Yeah.
Worlds, where it was a game set in space. Think of something more like Mass Effect or Knights of the Old Republic, where you're traveling to different planets, but the expectation is not that it's a No Man's Sky like space game or even like an
Mhm.
Elite like space game. The reception, I think, would be a lot different.
Yeah. Yeah,
It still,
definitely.
I don't think, would be universally praised, but the reception would be different. But that's not the game they tried to make. It's not a marketing problem; it's a design and development problem.
Mhm.
Yeah. So my top 6, I guess. Number 6 is Diablo 4, and I'll be the first to admit, launch Diablo 4, kind of meh. Season 1 Diablo 4 sucked. Season 2 of Diablo 4, not bad. So we'll see what happens with Season 3. I jumped back in Season 2. Really enjoyed my time with it. The vampire powers are really cool. When it comes to all the microtransaction stuff does not bother me really, because it's all cosmetic stuff, and the whole point of Diablo is getting better, cooler looking stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I've put probably 70 hours into that game. I've made 2 characters. I'm excited to try out the other characters once
Drew,
each season comes out.
So I mirror your sentiment about the release, and so I think the campaign of Diablo 4 is actually pretty good. I like the character of Lilith. I think she's more nuanced than a lot of the other antagonists in the Diablo universe. And I'm excited to see where they go with this story. And like you said, the launch status says, and then especially season 1 was such a bummer in terms of the quality of content. And they keep making incremental upgrades and improvements. But the thing about it is, like, Diablo 4 exists in a space where it feels like they don't know that Diablo 3 exists. But
Yeah.
all the improvements that they've made over time, over the many, many years, Diablo 3 is in like season 20 something or something like that right now. Still pumping out content that's like pretty compelling with new items and stuff like that, and tons of different builds. And Diablo 4 approached the game design in a way where, like, all the quality of life improvements that they've made in Diablo 3 that people swear by, they love, and they praise the developer for, they didn't put any of that on Diablo 4, and they were acting like they were surprised. Like, like people are surprised. They're like, "Well, it's a new game. It's gonna take time." No, you already have a blueprint for a fantastic Diablo game in Diablo 3, but you didn't look at all the successful things that you've done with your already established game and made Diablo 4 as something new that is not new at all and lacking in a lot of ways. And that frustrates me with Diablo 4 specifically because it has so much potential. But yet it's going to take many years to even get close to fulfilling it.
The issue, and I've brought it up before, but even whenever I was playing season 2, like leveling a character, the issue and I don't know if they'll be able to fix it because they kind of wrap the game around it, is the way legendaries work. So obviously you want to get as many uniques as you can. Those are hard to come by. So you're going to rely on legendaries. And in Diablo 3 and in Diablo 2, when a legendary or a unique, the equivalent in Diablo 2, dropped, that was a game changer. You officially have now won the next probably 20 hours. Legendaries drop in Diablo 4, and it's like sometimes I even friggin' skip them because I'm just like, come on, man, because the way they have that game set up with pulling a legendary aspect off of a weapon or a piece of gear and then putting it onto another one, it's like I feel like I'm hoarding these aspects because you don't know when you're going to put it because you can only use it one time.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And once you get that perfect roll, you don't want to use it because, well, I may find something better, 2 hours down the line.
Yeah,
So
that
you
I
end
was
up-
not a fan of that mechanic
Yeah.
at all.
And the problem is they've wrapped the entire game around that.
Yeah.
There's times where a rare will drop that's better than a legendary, and it makes no sense. But then you're like, well, you could always put the legendary aspect on that rare. Yeah, I could, but then what happens if I find another rare? Now I have to go grind for another legendary aspect.
I'll tell you, Drew. I'm glad you brought this up because this is actually on their roadmap for the improvements they're making. I think this is going to be something they're going to address in season 3, near beginning or mid of, where they're going to make it into like a codex, kind of like what we have in Diablo 3, where you just put the highest value of the legendary aspect, and you'll just be able to pull it from a codex, so that you don't have to worry about having to refarm it. And the thing about it is that you brought it up, like 90% of my storage is legendary affixes that
Yes.
sometime I might use somewhere down the line, and it just kills my inventory space. So, yeah, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I still enjoy the game. I still boot it up occasionally and just do a couple of not bounties, but Tree of Whisper stuff or do some of the seasonal stuff. And I've played a Necromancer, I've played a Rogue, both of which play almost completely different. And that's one thing I will give them because with Diablo 3, most of the characters kind of played the same. Just go into a mob and hit a bunch of buttons. This one, you actually have to like the rogue plays completely different from the necro, and I really enjoyed that, and it makes the characters feel unique. So I'm excited to try out a different character. I don't want to try out another one until a new season starts because I just don't want. I feel like I'm wasting my time building a character that I can't take into a season. So. I don't know. There's a lot that they did really well with Diablo 4. I think it looks amazing. I think, and as far as the gameplay goes, I think it plays great, and I think they're slowly getting there. Like it was a disappointment at launch for me. It really was. And then season 1, I was just like, "What the hell are you guys doing? You've nerfed everybody because you want them to play season 1. Well, some people don't want to play season 1, so now they're just officially nerfed." It was dumb how they did it, but with season 2, they definitely kind of redeemed themselves a little bit, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. Number 5 is Hi-Fi Rush.
The first mention of Hi-Fi.
Yeah, it's crazy that it took this long.
No shit, right?
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is absolutely fantastic. The soundtrack to that game is it's so good. It's so good. The way they handle it with the boss fight.
Feels attacked. Damn. I'm sorry I didn't play Hi-Fi Rush. I am gonna play it though.
Oh my god, you
you
didn't
need
play,
to play that game.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Because y'all niggas, he was like, "Damn, it's crazy." He like, "No, Rob, damn." I'm gonna play it.
Yeah.
But wait, it's rhythm based, right? That's the one where you have to like,
Yes.
with the combat.
You don't
Okay.
have to. You just get more damage if you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Perfect.
If
All
you,
right, then
if
we
you
in there.
play it on harder difficulties, you kind of need to be on the beat. So I played it on
Okay.
hard because I wanted to like try it out with how the game wanted to be played. And it's very skill based. It's basically a rhythm version of Devil May Cry, and it's so good. It's like it looks amazing, like in action, and the way they go from like cutscene to gameplay, it's almost like you can't tell.
Yeah.
It's
Characters
so
are all really good too.
Yeah, the characters are great. It's actually legitimately funny. That game is absolutely fantastic, and I highly suggest anybody out there to play it. Number 4 is Dredge. Picked that up just randomly. It was on my radar for a little while, and I was like, this looks kind of cool. But when I finally picked it up, I was addicted to this game for probably like 2 weeks. That's all I played. It's really, really good. The way they handle that horror aspect of like you don't know what's out there, and then also the game plays tricks on you. The first time I thought it was amazing. The first time I'm out at night and
I wouldn't spoil it. I wouldn't spoil it.
Okay, all right.
It's so well done.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to realize what was going on. Also, I forgot to mention, I don't like. I said I don't like deep sea stuff. Like that's a good way to get me scared. But the ocean at night is also up there. Like, even if you're above water, just the blackness of everything, like, this game captures that really well. Like, even when you have a light on your boat, it doesn't really penetrate the darkness.
No. And things like, depending on how good your light is, like things will just kind of materialize in front of you and you're not realizing it because couldn't see it because of the darkness. The way they handle darkness in this game is really good.
I was waiting for somebody to do
it. But yeah, Dredge is fantastic. I love that game. Number 3.
Hold on. I picked it up because you talked it up.
Yeah. No, it's good.
I saw it on sale. I said, I've been told to play this. All right. I picked it up, gave it a try, and was like, oh, shit. This is really good.
Yes, really good. Number 3, Dead Space Remake.
Goddamn right.
I'm still playing that right now. I haven't finished it just yet, but damn, is that a good game. Now, here's the thing. We've been talking about it on Phoenix Down. This game is not scary.
No,
this game has not scared me once. But why did the original Dead Space scare me?
Because it did things that back then nobody done, and now a lot of people have done it, so it doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
And also the main character speaks as well, so that might go into some of the feeling of immersion in terms of a silent protagonist. You kind of feel like you're him versus.
I really prefer Isaac talking, though.
Yeah.
I think Ken kind of nailed it because that's from the era of EA doing weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Mirror's Edge. That second game never clicked with me,
even though it was basically the same thing.
It arguably better.
But yeah, it was better.
Bigger. Yeah. It was bigger. It had more of like world building in it. Like, it's everything you could want from a game. It just like and an upgrade tree. Like, it was really smart. And I just never. I was like, I loved the first game, and this is not what I wanted. It's like, no, again. So like, it's totally like I see how it's a better game. But it doesn't do the same thing. It doesn't capture the same feeling. I think the same goes for Dead Space. Is just like Ken's right. Once you've seen it, it's not as impressive.
Yeah, it's still really good though.
Like, it's incredible what they did. Oh, yeah. Like, they made so many changes that make that game a better game.
Yeah. It's very visceral with its combat. There's so many different options. The weapons in that game are amazing. I mean, you can beat that game with just the plasma cutter, which is what I'm doing. And it's so good. It's so good. It looks amazing. The atmosphere, like there's small things about that game. Like when you kill, so like the necromorphs, when you kill them, their eyes will stay open. Their bodies are laying on the ground. And if one of them, if you have a flashlight, you can how the reflection of their eyes, you can just see their eyes laying there, and it's just so freaking creepy. The lighting in that game is amazing.
The most impressive thing in that game visually is when you get that blowgun and you shoot a necromorph and you see individual like pieces of flesh coming off of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy how good that game looks.
It's so good. It's so good. I love Dead Space. My number 2, Baldur's Gate 3. We've talked this game up a lot, and there's a reason. Larian knows what the hell they're doing, and other game companies really should try to mimic what they're doing.
Oh, they will.
Because holy crap.
I mean, they'll try to mimic it, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, that's
the
what
time,
I mean.
Yeah, the time that it takes to do what they did, nah. Nobody's going to take that time.
What's crazy is I've had Baldur's Gate 3 for like 4 years.
You had it in early access?
I had it in early access.
Yeah.
And I played that game for probably 2 hours and said, it's okay. But that full game, oh my God. It's so good. There's so many options. There's like much like Zelda, where you just think, oh, can I do this? Oh, you absolutely can do this. And there's so many different ways to approach things, not just like, talking your way out of stuff, but like when you're in combat, just like, maybe if I shoot this up above them, it'll fall. Oh, and it totally does. Or, like, I'm just going to shove this guy over into this ravine. Oh, you totally can. Yeah, it's
let me throw this barrel at this enemy. Oh shit, there's a knoll in the barrel. Like, that game is crazy.
That game is so good. It's so good. There's so many things to that game that, like, I feel like there's people out there who have played through this game who have not had the same experience as I have.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so good. And I mean, par for the course. Go play Original Sin 2.
Oh yeah, and the first one too. The first one is good. It's not as good as the second one, but it is a good game.
Yeah, the first one's.
I tried to go back to the first one. It has not aged well, man.
It has not.
I believe it hasn't aged well. Yeah, I believe it hasn't aged well. It's been a long time since I played the first one, but I enjoyed the hell out of it when I played it the first time.
Oh, I did too. Like, Original Sin 1 is a very, very quality game, but Original Sin 2, that's like...
Yeah.
And here's the thing, I think I read an article somewhere saying a lot of people who enjoyed Baldur's Gate 3 have went back to play Original Sin 2, and they're saying they're having a hard time with it because it's hard. That game's hard as shit.
Oh yeah, it's hard as shit. Yeah.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is a cakewalk compared to Original Sin 2.
Correct.
But that's my number 2. My number 1, which Ken probably already knows.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yeah, the bullet and the blade itself.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Resident Evil 4.
Resident Evil 4 remake. That, ooh man,
so good.
That is how you do a fucking remake. Capcom has been knocking it out of the park with these remakes.
I still think 2 is the best one.
2 is still the best one. I will agree with that. But damn, does 4 really get close? 4. So here's the thing. I've always had a respect for 4, but since I played it back on GameCube, I always had a negative connotation to it because that's when it changed. What have they done to my Resident Evil? They've turned it into an action game, and I've always been like, and I've never actually went back and played it since playing it like on PS2, and. And when we said we were going to do it for Phoenix Down, I was like, all right, well, this is probably not my favorite Resident Evil game, but I'll give it a shot. Boss, Resident Evil 4 is amazing. I have a newfound respect for that game.
Did you play through the DLC?
I have not.
It's good. It's basically like From the Other Side, like the original DLC was, but they expand it, just like the game.
And the thing that is the most impressive thing about Resident Evil 4, because I mean the visuals look great, the character designs, the layout of the entire village and mansion and everything like that, all that is fantastic. The way that game is built is every time you have a firefight, you have 2 bullets left to your name. It is perfectly balanced to where everything feels frantic. That's how they changed it. Resident Evil 1 and 2 were scary because you had limited stuff and there's zombies and stuff like that. This game isn't necessarily scary as it is more frantic and panic inducing because you have a million guys around you and just enough ammo to take care of all of them. And the way that game is balanced is so perfect because there's obviously some kind of AI or algorithm that reads, okay, he only has one healing item left, he'll be okay. Oh well, he needs some bullets, so we're going to drop some bullets for him. And then, oh well, he just used up his healing item. Let's give him a healing item. So the way that game kind of spoon feeds you stuff, it's fucking perfect. Like that the Resident Evil 4 remake is to me is the best game of the year. That is, oh man, if you have not played that, you need to play that game.
Indeed.
That's it. That's it for me.
All right, Jay, you want to go?
Alright, sure. I broke my list down to more bite-sized chunks to make them more palatable. I noticed that when I was doing my honorable mentions, there was a lot of these games that I really like that I'm playing through right now and kind of putting them on the back burner to go back to later, but I haven't beat them, so I don't want to put them on, either top 10 or honorable. So I'll start with those first. Star Ocean Second Story R, I think that's another one of those remake scenarios. I think we got so many great remakes this year, particularly, and it's not just Capcom doing good ones. This is one. I forgot the developer that's doing it, but they did a fantastic job. Star Ocean Second Story is one of my favorite, like, cult favorite PS1 RPG games from the early days of like Tri-Ace and Square and stuff like that. So it was really nice to see it brought back after almost 20 years of its absence. Another game that I'm playing through now that I really enjoy is one called Turbo Overkill. I think in terms of, I don't even really like boomer shooters, to be honest with you. I'll play newer games that are fast paced, like Doom, Eternal, and stuff like that. But I don't. The old retro graphics don't really sell me on anything particularly. But this one particularly just has so much charm, style, and just the sheer speed of the game is just incredible. I think this is the best one of its kind that I've ever played, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. I'm only about like 4 hours in so far. Another one that I started that I want to finish is Dave the Diver. I think you guys have already mentioned that game before. I think Terrence put it pretty well in terms of like how chill that game is, and that's one of those games that I'm playing on like the Steam Deck exclusively. It's just a really cozy game to play maybe like 30, 40 minutes before I go to bed. It's just really nice. Another game that I started just recently is called Witch on the Holy Night. This is a Type Moon visual novel game. Type Moon is kind of infamous or famous for their Fate and Tsukihime series, and this is based on their Tsukihime series, and their storytelling and characters are always top notch, and this one doesn't seem to be anything out of the norm in that regard. I'm really enjoying the story, the characters, the music, everything. This is going to take me another like 40, 50 hours of reading, but I'm in for the long haul. Okay, going straight into honorable mentions. Let me go over a couple of games that's already been mentioned so I can get them out quickly. Resident Evil 4 Remake, honorable mention. I think this was, in terms of just the quality of the game, this would be on my top 10, but because it feels pretty strictly like a remake in terms of it doesn't do enough for me to feel like it deserves its own spotlight again, because Resident Evil 4 to me is a very special entry in this series where I played the infamous village section at a GameStop or something like that on one of those kiosk GameCube, and I walked out of the GameStop with a GameCube memory card and a copy of Resident Evil 4. That's how much I like that game. I've beaten it like 6, 7 times. The fact that the remake, lives up to the hype of the original and makes it even better in certain areas, like characters, like what they did with Louise, what I thought was fantastic, and a lot of the elements where it seemed a lot more streamlined with a lot less filler content as well, which I love. But still, at the end of the day, like I think Resident Evil 4 original and Resident Evil 4 remake kind of stand side by side. They don't replace one or the other. So if you like Resident Evil 4 remake, you can play the original and vice versa and still enjoy it. Another honorable mention is Alan Wake 2. I think Terrence did a really wonderful job of explaining all the strengths of the game. I think in terms of what Remedy has done in terms of style plus substance, I think Alan Wake 2 is the best. It's kind of the fulfillment of their vision of this mashing of live action media elements plus like survival horror gameplay and the relative flow and style of the game. And I think, it's one of those. It has that scenario with the whole the dancing and the singing part, which I'm sure I'll remember for a very long time. I've heard the song played out in like playlists and stuff like that. It's pretty fantastic. But once again, it's only unhonorable because of the myriad of technical issues that popped up that just kind of really really ruined the flow of the game. Between all the sound desyncs, all the visual technical stuff that I ran into, all the loading problem that I ran into. There was one specific part where I was near the climax of the game, and I'm following these very specific doors, and I'm trying to get to someplace very secretive that no one else can get to normally. So I'm trying to open the door, and all of a sudden I fall into the ground. And at this part of the narrative, I'm thinking like, is this part of the game? Is this like kind of showing me that I'm going through another world, another parallel universe? I kind of like shifting through the ground, but it turns out it was just a bug, and I had to restart the whole session, losing like 10 minutes of progress. It just really sours a good game when you run into those kind of issues. So that's unfortunate. Street Fighter 6, no one has mentioned yet. I think in terms of bringing Street Fighter back, actually, Drew, you're a Street Fighter guy. Did you play Street Fighter 6?
Nope.
Oh.
I don't have the time to dedicate to a fighting game anymore, and Street Fighter 5 left such a bad taste in my mouth that I just didn't bother.
Honestly, Drew, Street Fighter 6 does a wonderful job of getting that bad taste out of your mouth in terms of the terrible launch of Street Fighter 5 and the overall style of gameplay. Street Fighter 6 is much more faster paced. It has a lot more things going with its characters. It's just more fun to play, and it looks fantastic too. The only thing that's really holding it back is the single player content with the whole World Tour more or whatever that thing was really hyped up, but it ended up being really really boring and tedious. And also, obviously, the microtransactions that's just everywhere. I think they try to sell each costume for like $7 or something like that. You can't even buy them in a bundle. It's terrible, and they're putting it on your face every time you go to try to play online. The lobbies, we pay like $60-$70 for this game, and the fact that we have to be bombarded by ads constantly just to play it is an absolute shame, And it's such a good game in terms of its horror gameplay too. So if you ever get the chance to like pick it up at like a sale, Drew, for like maybe like 20 or something like that, I highly recommend it. I think you would get a kick out of the various characters and stuff like that. I know it doesn't have Alpha Rhino or anything like that, or I'm not sure if it's ever coming back, but there are some characters which I think you might like in terms of their
Okay.
playstyle. So yeah,
I'll,
give it a shot.
maybe I will give it a shot one day.
Yeah. It's one of those situations where you don't have to put that much time in. It's not an RPG game, right? You just kind of go into the practice mode, see who you like, maybe take it online if you like a character, and it's a decent time. Another honorable mention, Stasis Bone Totem. This is a point and click adventure game, which there aren't a lot of really good ones being made nowadays, but this is like a really sci-fi, excellent, existential dread kind of game where you're delving into like the bottom of the ocean where there are terrible scientific experiments and all this weird stuff going on, and the story and the characters are fantastic. There's a character in there where it's like an AI teddy bear that looks really grotesque, but is really endearing in a lot of ways, which I'm sure I'm going to remember for a long time. And you can even get that game for like super cheap, like $3 or $4, or in like a part of a bundle. So if you get a chance to grab the game, Stasis Bone Totem, I recommend you check it out. Last honorable mention is Hollow Cure. This is like a Vampire Survivor clone. It's based on like this whole like VTuber thing. But even if you don't like VTubers and have no idea who these characters are, the game's core mechanics and the amount of passion and content that is put into that place made it feel like it was a full price game at like $30-$40, but it's completely free. There's no
What's the name of it?
DLC. Hollow Cure.
Okay.
HOLO Cure. Yeah. Ryan, I think you would like this game a lot. It's got really
I'm
great
sure
music.
I probably would if it's Vampire
Yeah.
Survivors like.
Yeah. And I would say out of all the Vampire Survivors, this is my favorite one. Just because of the sheer amount of content and different types of weapons and skill sets and stuff like that you can get, it's actually really, really cool. So I recommend you give that a check. Like I said, completely free. It's available on Steam. Going to my top 10. My top 10 list is the top 3 are numbered. The rest are not. I don't know. I'm just not good at numbering things in terms of how much I like stuff. So I do have a couple of ones that no one has brought up yet. So getting started, Liza P. Who else plays Liza P here?
I played it for like
I
an
did not.
hour, maybe.
Yeah.
I played it.
It looks
wasn't
really
bad.
good.
It
It
actually,
plays really good.
yeah. I debated putting it on my list towards the bottom because it was one of the better. Because I don't like those Souls games, but it definitely was one of the
Yeah.
better ones that I've played.
Yeah. It's wild, man. The developers of Lies of P had never made a Souls-like game or even an action-adventure game previous to this at all. They're the people that make DJ Max, man. Those rhythm games. So the fact that they can just come out of left field with this incredibly highly polished, very well crafted, content filled game. No issues with DLC or anything like that. The game was perfectly good to play on launch. No technical issues whatsoever, and stuff like that would really bring the experience down, which happened with a lot of like big AAA games this year. I think Lords of the Fallen is another one that I reviewed, and that game was just mired with technical issues to the point where it just became unpleasant to play in a lot of ways, and that sucks. But Liza P came up, worked perfectly well from beginning to end. The only complaint that people had was that it was too hard. I thought it was challenging, but it wasn't unfair. So, it was very good, and also kind of delves into the story. Eliza P kind of goes into the story of Pinocchio and Geppetto, and it has a really interesting twist on that story with the world building and everything, and the game even hints at a potential sequel using another, I suppose, like a fictional character that's very famous as well. So I'm very excited to see where they go. And also for Souls-like, it has one of the best soundtracks of the year for some reason. I don't even know why. You can find these record players or records that you can get from doing side quests and finding them in hidden areas, and they're truly fantastic stuff. The last time I sat inside of a hub just to listen to the song or the various like original soundtrack doesn't happen very often, but I did it a couple times on Liza P. Speaking of songs, I do love my rhythm games, Theater Rhythm Final Bar line. If you're like me, if you like Final Fantasy music or the Square Enix music in general, and you like rhythm games, this is kind of the game for you. This game comes with like 240 songs packed in, and has DLC, which includes even more from other series like Nier, Octopath, Chrono Trigger, and much more. So if you like those kind of games, like the music from them, it's just fun to play, and just the music just hits, man. Just the music hits really good. Next up is Spider-Man 2. First one to bring this one up. I'm sure it's
That's
going to be
also
on
weird.
at
Like
least.
an hour and 20 minutes in, nobody's talking about Spider-Man 2.
But look who you've gone through.
Yeah, I
People
know.
that don't have
This
a
is true.
PS5.
Nobody
I
that's
don't think any of
gone has a
those, any of us have a
PS5 yet.
PS5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
so
So we got the peasants list out of the way. So let's go with the rich people's list. So
Oh, it's pretty fucking good. Fuck you, though.
yeah, it's okay. I mean, like, honestly, this is the year that I played the least of my PS5 amongst the years that I had it so far, which is I think 3 years now or 2 years.
Yeah, this is the
Uh,
third year. Yep.
Third, yeah, three. And Spider-Man 2 is one of those reasons why I have of a PlayStation. It's kind of the only way to play it right now. And the thing that I said about Spider-Man is that it had the best traversal of any open world game. That title now goes to Spider-Man 2. It's one of those games where the fast travel system, as good as it is and as well implemented it is feels like an entirely useless function because I never used it except for once when I wanted to see how it looked like when I used it, because it's so much fun just swinging around using the glider suits to get around. I think the story in this game was fantastic in terms of the characters, the development of Harry, Peter, Miles, and how they kind of turn out with their own crosses that they bear. It was really good. I think in terms of the overarching storyline, I think I kind of liked the whole Dr. Oct and Peter Parker story better in terms of the whole mentorship. I think that hit me harder in terms of the feels. But here it was very good, and the fact that they were able to kind of bounce between the characters so effortlessly was pretty impressive. And that they also ended up making the Mary Jane parts of the game actually pretty good, for a change, because they were the worst parts of Spider-Man 1. So I'm glad they improved upon that instead of just kind of cutting it away entirely and making it pretty good. So yeah, I don't know what Insomniac's going to do next with the Spider-Man series, but it surely is in
I
good
mean,
hands for whatever they want to go.
we already
Yeah, we
know.
do. Everybody know they leaked it. We know what's coming.
There's no more secrets.
Things plans can change. You never know.
Yeah, I think that's probably
Okay.
pretty set in stone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I'm talking about people that hasn't looked at those leaks.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, the next game on the list is Armored Core 6. I think among here, like Ken, you're an old Armored Core guy, right?
Yeah, I love the first couple games on the original PlayStation. Yes.
Did you end
Same.
up playing Armored Core 6 at all, or
I,
not so much?
I did finally pick it up. I have it. I played through the first level, and that was it. Like, the helicopter boss just wrecked me, and then I was like, all right, I'll come back to this at another time. But yeah,
Okay,
it's really good.
gotcha. It is. Ron, did you get to play Armored Core 6 at all?
No, I have not. I'm waiting until I get past some of the other stuff in my backlog. It'll probably be a game I play this year.
Fair enough. But I'm excited to hear what you're gonna think about, because I think not only did FromSoft bring back one of their most established franchises, which fell forgotten because of their runaway success with the Souls-like games, they managed to kind of craft, I think, what I believe to be the best one of the entire series. And there are like 10 Armored Core games, so that's high praise. Indeed. It just plays incredibly well. It's so fast-paced. Everything is just so snappy. All the weapons feel satisfying to use. Going back to the builder for your Armored Core to assemble different types of builds for different types of scenarios feels really intuitive, because anything that you buy you can sell back for the same exact price. So the game rewards you to constantly buy, sell things, and experiment based on what you want. And you can have loadouts of things that you were successful with, some things that are very good at taking down bosses that are large, some things that are good at taking down multiple enemies, some things that are good at taking down bosses that are fast and kind of gets around you. And by the end of the campaign, I had like 4 or 5 different builds that I would go between. So the gameplay remained very fresh. I thought the story was intriguing. It doesn't really give you a lot of information in terms of the world building. You're kind of forced to build it, kind of piece it together on your own. But the fact that I cared so much about these characters whose faces I've never seen, who I never really interacted from like a person to person, because you play as a silent hero, and just through their voices, and the voice acting is so good in this game too, man. It really sells the drama, and it has, in my opinion, the best moment in gaming of this year. In that one particular mission, which I don't want to spoil, but he won't miss. Is kind of the thing that you'll remember if you ever get to that place. So yeah, it's just fantastic. Not only did they bring an old series, which I love, back from the grave, they did so in such spectacular fashion. So I'm very thankful for that. And this game sold very well as well, and they got really good acclaim from critics. So I'm expecting to see more Armored Core games in the future. So I'm very, very excited. Next game is Legend of Heroes: Trails into Reverie. I know, no one here knows what that is, but my love for the Legend of Heroes series is well established at this point. This is kind of the the finality of the Trials of Cold series, Trials of Cold Steel, which ran from 1 to 4 and then finally into this as kind of like an epilogue, and also becomes a bridge to the next arc, which is coming out later this year into Calvards. So this is basically the best version of the Cold Steel in terms of the combat. It has so many different characters that you could put into your party and customize. It's like more than like 20 playable characters you can have. There's all these mini games and extra things that you can do. So there's tons of content, which is not really a staple for the series. You usually just kind of beat the game and you're kind of done, and there's just New Game Plus. But this one has a tremendous amount of post-game content, which I really appreciate. And it's just a wonderful story as usual. Octopath Traveler 2 is up next. I think this is one of those games that got slept on this year in terms of like awards and stuff. Hands down, the best soundtrack of the year in my book. I still listen to that soundtrack with the characters and the different types of like battle music, like almost like every other day. It's in my playlist when I'm working, and it never fails to get me hyped up. It fixes a lot of the issues with Octopath Traveler 1, where there isn't a lot of interactions between the 8 characters that you have. So there are these missions that you take on with two characters at once, and you kind of see them interact with each other, building chemistry. And at the very end, near the post game, you kind of get them all together to do this whole big thing, which I felt pretty natural in terms of the storytelling. I think there is still room for improvement, but everything that they did in this game is truly fantastic in terms of the steps that they're making to get this series even better and better. So hopefully they'll make a third one, and it'll be the one that gets literally everything right. And then the last one before my top 3 is Hi-Fi Rush. I think, Drew brought it up. It's basically incredibly good, like character action game kind of deal, and the fact that they put so much passion and love into the game, it's one of the most easily visible things. You just press start, the way the animations of the menus, the characters, the way that they interact with each other, the writing, which I thought was pretty funny in most of the cases, the fact that everything just kind of goes along with the music. Everything just goes on with the beat of the music that you're listening to. And the entire world kind of blends together into this singular experience of a singular purpose that you're trying to get through. And it's fantastic. I don't think it reaches the heights of like Devil May Cry 5 or Bayonetta in terms of character, like spectacle character fighting. I think it's more shallow than that in terms of that, but that's coming from someone that really delves into spectacle fighting, like me, that's like played every single like Devil May Cry Bayonetta game and stuff like that, except for 3, I guess. But it's still fantastic. And the fact that this game was shadow dropped, no marketing nonsense, no dumb DLC, season pass, deluxe edition, store exclusive bullshit that everyone is tired of. It just came out and it was fantastic. And we just got to play it right away. And I think that really put it up on my list in terms of how much I enjoyed it, because the circumstances around it, it was able to divorce itself from the nastiness of the current game development cycle and the marketing aspect of it that we're all so sick of, and it just came out and it was just a good game. I just wished they would do more of that, to be honest with you. And the fact that the game seems to be coming out, hopefully, on other consoles, will mean better sales, and maybe we'll get a sequel, or maybe we'll just get other games that are dropped in similar fashion, which I would also enjoy.
Yeah,
So
if that game comes out on Switch, I think it'll do really well on Switch.
Man,
Yes.
I just don't know that game can run on Switch at a good frame rate that would play well.
Probably 30
I'm sorry,
frames,
the Switch is just so underpowered.
Yeah, but that game isn't, exactly like a visual.
Yeah, but here's okay.
spectacular.
Somebody made a really good argument. So if Hi-Fi Rush is coming to Switch, why the hell isn't it on Xbox One?
I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Xbox that question.
Yeah, I just don't think Hi-Fi Rush works on Switch, especially if they got to put it at 30. No way. No way.
I mean, Mortal Kombat 1 works on Switch just
No, it doesn't.
Ken, so.
No, it does not.
Define works.
It boots up, motherfucker.
If you press
That's
a
about
button
the
and then
extent of it.
eventually something happens, it works, right? So.
Yeah, no.
All right. Well, it'll work well on PlayStation 5. Okay, fine. It'll be fine.
Oh,
on
they ain't doing PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
No way.
They'll do it, man. They need sales numbers and stuff like that. Tango
No, they
deserves
don't.
more money.
But did you really just say Microsoft needs sales?
I said Tango needs more sales.
Tango's owned by Microsoft. They're fine.
Get better bonuses, man. Shit. I don't know how much Microsoft's paying. But anyway, yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is great. Play it. It's still on Game Pass, I think, for the foreseeable future, right? Because it's owned by Microsoft. So
yeah, it'll never leave Game Pass. So
yeah, that's good. I saw all the Persona games leaving Game Pass at like end of the month.
I mean, it was a 12-month window, so I mean that makes sense. If you didn't play them in the 12 months they were there, you didn't want to play them anyway. Just saying.
You know how it is with backlogs, man. I just kind of wish things had stayed for longer.
Oh, for sure, but at some point it's like, it's the Netflix model. This shit ain't staying. Gotta go away eventually.
Eventually, but I'm saying, maybe 2 years instead of 1 year.
Some
Give it
games
a little
only
bit
get
more time.
like 6 months or so. I don't know. And fucking
Yeah,
contracts are
yeah.
crazy, dude.
It is, man. I do not envy those people that have to navigate those contracts for like who gets what and for how long and stuff like that. It seems like an absolute mess. Okay, so getting to my top three. These are numbered. So number three is going to go to yet another Legend of Heroes game, Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure. This is that old, like I think this game originally came out in like the early 2010s or something like that on like PS Vita and stuff. And this game was really well, actually. Yeah, don't fact check me on that. But regardless, this is probably the best in terms of overall package, like the story, the pacing, the characters, the music, and the gameplay. I think out of the entire series, this is just the best overall package. I don't think it is the strongest in every single aspect, but it just has it all. It just has whatever makes these games work so well. It just puts them all together and is kind of D1. It kind of reminds me of a way like Link to the Past is like the perfect 2D Zelda game, right? Like they did every single thing right in terms of the powers, the level designs, all the bosses and everything like that, and that kind of feels like it is. It's the pinnacle of this type of game with this type of engine. And if you never play any of the Legend of Heroes games, I think having to play Legend of Heroes Trails to Zero and Trails to Azure, or Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure, those two games specifically are such a fantastic duology that I would not mind if people just play those two games specifically and skip like the other like 10 games in the series. But hopefully that would encourage them to play the other ones too because these two games are so fantastic. Number two is going to be Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, as much as I like to be like a contrarian sometimes just for not being predictable, because I know nobody really wants to be predictable and stuff like that. But this is one of those games that came out and kind of really dominated my entire free time for like weeks. I just while I was working, my Switch was next to me. you know, when I had like a 10-15 minute break, I will pick that Switch up. I will be delving in and exploring the underside of Hyrule. I will be knocking out shrines, and I actually ended up liking this game more than the Breath of the Wild, mostly because I think I like the overall gameplay more. In terms of just being able to get around and do things better because you have such great mobility with the crafts that you can build. Once I built that hover bike thing, it was basically GG.
You gotta
I
have
was going to explore everything.
You gotta have the hover bike in your favorites because that bitch is just the best.
It is the absolute best. Once I figured that out, I was just flying everywhere across Tyrol, and it was fantastic. Just to give you an idea of how much I like this game, I finished every shrine. I did not do that for Breath of the Wild. I did not get even close. I finished every shrine. I got like all the major power-ups and different types of items around the world. And I didn't even require a guide to find all the shrines because the layout of the shrines in relation to how they're layered on top of the under Hyrule, it made it so that all those seeds that you follow along the ground, if you see one at the bottom of Hyrule, on the very existing top overlaying that seed with the light and stuff like that, where it becomes a checkpoint, there is a shrine there. And just by using that method, I was able to explore all the underside, map out all the different ones that doesn't have a shrine or that I haven't explored a shrine of on the top side, and be able to just kind of go and knock them out as I go back and forth between the places. And the finale of Tears of the Kingdom I thought was way better than the finale of Breath of the Wild 2. It was just epic. I just really loved it. The welling of the sound, the duel against Ganondorf, the music, the way it like wells in at the very last moment. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, I think it would probably go. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you notice the names of the shrines and the light routes?
I noticed some of them, but I didn't really make any kind of a
The light
connection.
routes are the shrine names backwards.
backwards. Yeah.
Oh, I never even noticed that. That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's those kind of details that really make you appreciate the world building in these Zelda games, and I think they did a great job. It still has flaws, in my opinion. I think like I wouldn't say destructible weapons were as big of a problem here in Tears of the Kingdom because you can just attach a high level ingredient to anything in particular and make a decently powerful weapon that'll last a few strikes. So it kind of gets rid of you having to hoard certain types of things all the time. But at the same time, it's still it's still kind of annoying to deal with in terms of getting everything done and just getting rewarded for your efforts, right? You wanna have a nice big reward for getting something done, but if you end up just getting a weapon that you know is gonna break in like 10 15 hits, or getting like a part for like an ingredient for a weapon that also breaks in 10 15 hits, kind of a bummer. I think there are still improvements to be made in that formula. I don't know if they're going to continue with the Breath of the Wild formula for the next game. Did they say specifically whether or not it's going to be another one of those, or it's going to be different?
Yeah, I think it's going to continue this because in an interview, he didn't say specifically, but in an interview, like people were like, "Oh, we want you to go back to the original." He's like, "Yeah, that was a time and place. We're not going to do that." So, which sucks because I would love to go back to like Link to the Past or Ocarina style games, but I don't think we're going to see it.
Yeah,
Question
I
for
think.
you.
Yeah.
Regarding Tears of the Kingdom, do they have dungeons in this game?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way: they have bigger. The things you do in this game are far more dungeon-like than the ones in Breath of the Wild.
Than jumping on top of a beast and then just
Yeah, the beasts are boring.
The beasts were the weakest part of Breath of the Wild to me.
Like these are far more intricate, and they have enemies. Like it's not like just a puzzle segment, and not a good one at that. It is like it has the more familiar Zelda dungeon layout. Like I would say the standout one for me is the desert because of how everything is sort of handled in it. But there's also caves, which I know is a weird thing to point out, but the caves feel like mini dungeons because they all move and sort of flow differently. And finding those give you another collectible, so they're worth doing. I think I appreciated those a lot as well, and that also makes really good use of the Ascension ability. So there was a little bit more things to do than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it's better than Breath of the Wild in terms of the dungeon delving, but don't expect it to be like Ocarina of Time or Skyward Sword kind of dungeon where you're going through this like 1 hour dungeon with multiple mini keys and master
its own
keys and
style.
all this other stuff. Yeah. But there are some like good ones sprinkled here and there, and even getting to them can be pretty fun too. So I think it's kind of the whole package experience, and I thought it was pretty good overall.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. And my number one is gonna be Baldur's Gate 3. Like I said, I hate being predictable, but it's the game that kind of changed the opinions of a lot of gamers this year in terms of, oh well, people think of like CRPGs as this inaccessible thing where it's like, oh, only the most hardcore of hardcore players can enjoy these kind of games. They're too difficult, they're not intuitive, you need to understand the rules of D&D before you get in. But Baldur's Gate 3 kind of showed up and said like, well, watch this, and kind of undid all of those preconceived notions and made a CRPG that not only was as accessible and as tailored to a player's experience as it could be, but it also made it in a way where it did not have to sacrifice a lot of what makes CRPG so great. The sheer amount of customization, the choices that truly matter, the meaningful things that you can do with the characters based on their interactions, and the fact that I'm doing another campaign with with our guys here with the Drew, Anthony, and Terrence, and I have already seen, despite me having played through the game twice and restarted the game another time for just to kind of try out a couple of different things, I've seen so many things I haven't seen during my playthrough during our multiplayer session. And the fact that the multiplayer works at all, despite the bugs that we run into, which kind of suck, but they're in the in the middle of fixing everything, so hopefully it'll be better and better and better. But the fact that it even works and I can have this D&D experience, on the internet playing a game without having a dungeon master, it's just really great because I've always wanted to do like a D&D campaign at some point in my life, but I never got around to it because I could never, find the time, find the right group of people and all this stuff. So I'm getting not an identical experience that you would have, obviously, but in a way where it's an experience that fits my play style better. And
As
the fact that it just works, man. It's just good.
as someone that plays D&D
Mhm.
and in this exact edition of it, I'm gonna be honest, you're getting a pretty good experience of like a well run campaign. Like it's so awesome to me that like you came into it not playing D&D and I came into it and I think both of us can walk away and be like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
there's
you're right.
there's literally no like disappointing anyone. I don't know. This game is something else. It's crazy. I just haven't played enough of it to be like it's my number one game. But like this is what I want to do if I'm not playing D&D with anyone. I'll just boot this up and play a different character. Like the fact that like inside our campaign, like we've walked into the wrong room and because our roll wasn't high enough, we died. Like and that changes how everything plays out. Like that's so like you stealing from people for a campaign like I don't know, there's just that the options like when people talk about what's the terminology for like Deus Ex immersive sims. This should be in that conversation for those people too. Like this has all of that.
It does.
So
It really does.
the thing that really pushes it for me was there's so many scenes that we've done as a group, right? Where we're making decisions and stuff like that, and sometimes we're talking over the cutscene, like, oh, I don't know about this, and stuff like that. But the one scene that still gets me is when we get teleported to the demon's lair, and he's sitting there offering us, something. The entire group shut the hell up. It was dead silence watching this cutscene. And I can't remember who was talking, but we all just kind of clicked our little decisions and stuff like that. And then after that, we got sent back to the real world. And I think somebody kicked in. We're just like, this game's pretty fucking awesome. It's just so good.
Yeah.
We were so enthralled in this cutscene. Like, what the fuck is going on? We just got teleported. There's this demon dude, and we're in like his fucking lounge and shit. It's crazy. That game is nuts.
The when I was in the big old telescope looking thing to remove the tadpole,
Yeah.
like that was so intense. Like I'm just like,
Oh
oh
man.
please God, let me because wait,
Oh
the
my
thing
god, that's
was,
right. I thought you were going to die. I thought we were going to
Yep.
lose you for
well that
real.
was
I was like, oh damn.
well that was one thing where I was like, man, like this, if I die here, like I think this should be like I have to start a new character because like it it would feel right. You know what I mean? Like for just to have a character just straight out die in that scenario. But the other part was like I wasn't necessarily wanting to lose the tadpole because it has a bunch of abilities, but I also kind of wanted to see how things would play out if I got it removed and I was with you guys who still had them.
Mm.
Like I'm like,
It's
oh, that'd be
totally. It seems like it's totally viable, though. That's the thing.
right. I mean, it's just it's when I say it's like this is like playing D&D with like a really good DM. Uh, it has all the answers. Like I have not run into a scenario where I'm like I should have been able to do this. Like where I'm like you just didn't let me do that. Like no, they give you the options outright. Like I never feel like I'm being held back at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to your point, I have not consumed any of the other tadpoles
Really?
all the way through my story on purpose.
Oh wow.
Because it feels like what my paladin would do. And so it's completely viable to go through the entire game without consuming a tadpole or expanding your powers that way.
Yeah, my paladin is all
I knew
about
that,
I
yeah.
don't give a shit.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so cool.
Yeah,
That whole
And
Oathbreaker scene was
The
awesome.
Oathbreaker.
Yes,
It's so
that was
cool.
cool.
And now he's just there. He's still just there.
Yeah, he's just at the
he's
camp.
part of the camp.
chilling.
Yeah, he's watching over me.
Jay, oh god, what's the guy's name? The white-haired guy's name?
Astarion.
Asterion.
Yeah. Like you robbed him for his clothes. He's still naked. The game just never
Yeah.
gave him clothes.
We never healed him. He's still beat up all to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Person needed that fit, okay? It was for a good cause.
I don't blame you. I just can't believe the game didn't like just turn back into a game. You know what I mean? Like it kept that consistent.
And guys, let me break it down to you. All the experiences and all the stories that we have to tell already, we're still not done with Act 1.
We're in Act
We're
1.
still not
Yeah.
we're in Act 2.
So much to that game.
I can't wait to hear the way you guys feel about the game as you get deeper into it.
Yeah, we have a lot more adventuring to do.
It's so good. It would have been my number one, but I haven't played enough of it. I mean, is it great? Of course it is. But like, I don't know, Resident Evil 4 really hit something for me.
Yeah. So. Well, hopefully we'll be able to play more, and then we can talk about it once we can do like a special podcast at the very end once we finish the entire game. And we'll just be the four of us just talking about the game. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Talk about our best favorite moments and stuff like that. It'd be a good time. So hopefully, we'll
we
get
can
more
do it on
sessions in.
TNA After Dark. Yeah,
maybe easy.
Remember that time I pissed off that god and it just killed all of us and we got game over?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
that
thought
was
he was
awesome.
gonna kill
We were
you. We would have been fine.
We were like, huh? Okay, well. Reload, save. All right.
Dive into the god's
awesome.
mind.
Jesus
Sure.
Christ.
Oh, that game is so good, man.
It seemed like a good idea at the time, is all I can say. But
well, if I'd have made the roll, I don't know.
Yeah, that is true. Maybe it would have been perfectly fine. Maybe we would have been even rewarded for our audacity to speak to a god that way. But I suppose we might find out next time. But yeah, that's my top 10.
All right. We're going to move on to the Wombat, and I always like to play this game every year. Is like, how far do we get where my list has been talked about every single game? And right now there are 4 games nobody's mentioned yet that are on my list.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Wow.
I know
Nice.
Wombat's going to have 2 of them for sure.
Well, so
Okay.
I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Let me count real quick. I have 1, 2, 3 games on my 4 games on my actual list that nobody's talked about yet.
Okay.
And I have 2 games on my honorable mentions and 2 games on my disappointments list that nobody's talked about yet.
Damn, that's a lot more than
I'm
me.
gonna say-
Holy shit.
All I'm gonna say is like that just shows how good of a year of gaming
Yeah,
as
sure.
a consumer, anyways, has
Yeah.
been.
And I didn't play half of them.
Yeah.
You didn't even play 10.
No.
All right. So I'll start with disappointments. So Starfield's on my disappointments list. No surprises there. Again, before anybody says, "Well, you played 50 hours of it. How is it disappointing?" That's the least amount of hours I've ever put into a Bethesda game ever.
He also said disappointing, not bad.
Oh no, sure, yeah. Now there are parts of the game that I believe are bad. There are parts of it that I believe are good. I enjoyed my time with the spaceship builder. I enjoyed, just finding, being on a planet, watching a spaceship land, going over to that spaceship and jacking it. I enjoyed that. I thought that was fun, going back and selling it and all that stuff.
Can you cut out him saying
In San
jacking it?
Diego.
I was gonna say,
Better
yeah,
have been in
Terrence got
San
it. San
Diego.
Diego was over here. You like jacking it in San Diego? What's up?
Straight up jorking it. Anyway, so the best way I can describe that game um, is so in Lord of the Rings, Bilbo says near the beginning of the book that he feels like butter spread over too much bread, and that's Starfield. It's butter spread over too much bread. They tried to do a whole bunch of things and ended up doing not much at all. The space combat. Well, let me just give an example. So one of the things the game loves to do is it loves to give you the illusion of scope. Okay. And so one of the ways it likes to give you the illusion of scope is somebody on the development team at some point played Elite. And in Elite, you have to manage your spaceship. You have to manage the power levels on your spaceship, and it's important. Like it's not something you can just ignore. If you're in a fight, you have to be changing power levels and stuff. That's part of it. So in Starfield, they took the idea of managing power levels and then did shit with it. It doesn't you don't have to touch the power levels at all if you don't want to. Like you could just go forever and not touch them.
Ryan, let me ask you this: did you do the whole Mantis quest like way earlier than you should have?
No, I did not. I
You
didn't
didn't?
do it actually. I did it way later than I should have because
Oh,
by the time I did it, um, none of the stuff was worth it at all.
for
The
me, I did it when I was like level 10, and that was the gear that I used for about 40 hours of my campaign, and
Yeah,
it kind of sucked.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my spaceship. I stole a spaceship that was probably bigger than what I should have been able to steal. Um, and I used that the entire time and just kind of kept adding and deleting parts in the spaceship builder. But the other thing is like you'll add power to your spaceship, right? And so you get more switches to toggle, right? You can add more bars of power to your engines, let's say, but it doesn't increase the speed of your ship. It just gives it more granularity, which is silly because there's functionally no difference in a game where space travel is really just floating around in a localized area. There's no benefit to being able to choose between going 30 and 40. So it's I don't know, the whole game is like that. It's like they played all these games, they had all these ideas of things that they wanted to do, and they did all of them, but they didn't look past the very surface of it to see why that was important or what might be interesting about it. Um, you got a million planets that you can explore, and 95% of them are rocks. And look, is it realistic? Sure. Yeah, it's realistic. Doesn't make it fun.
Hey,
Like,
do you not think the astronauts that went to the moon were having fun?
right. Yeah. And it's especially not fun if all I'm doing to get to that planet is fast traveling. I'm not just flying and finding it, which of course is impossible in real life as well. But I'm just fast traveling to it because it was on a map. I'm fast traveling to the ground, and then when I'm on the ground, there ain't shit to do. I can, in some levels, I can look at animals and try to classify all the animals on the planet. But even that is like, there's nothing that helps me know where the animals are. You're just wandering around hoping you see one.
I'm going to
Um,
I'm going to say something because when you're describing this, the things that this game at least like tries to do, No Man's Sky actually did that even at launch. Like,
Oh yeah, so they
you
did
could
that
land
part at
in
launch for sure. Yep.
and build things, and like, yeah, all those things got better with updates, but it from the core like was that. And so like hearing that like Bethesda couldn't even get that right, like the ability to fly into space and onto planets, is just disappointing on a level I can't describe. Like, it feels like that's kind of the important part, because at least then when you land on a rock, you landed on a rock. You didn't just
Right.
hit a menu.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and the fact that you have to walk everywhere when you get down there anyway is also another giant fail that they're going to try to probably solve with paid DLC. But anyway, that's enough about Starfield. We talked about it way too much already, but it was a game that I was incredibly hyped for, and that hype carried me through the amount of it that I played, and then I quit and have absolutely no desire to go back to it. And as I mentioned a couple times, with past Bethesda games, I've gone back to them, 8, 10, 12 times and put, another 100 hours in or 50 hours in or however many. So, yeah, that's definitely on my disappointments list.
Ryan,
Also on my
as someone who has finished the game in its completion and started the whole new game cycle of whatever that thing is, never going back is probably the best thing that you did.
yeah,
It
and I
does
mean,
not get better. The story does
yeah,
not
and
get better. There's no fulfillment.
yeah, that's kind of what I figured. So
Yeah.
I'll leave the memories alone. Also,
Space.
also on my disappointments list, AEW Fight Forever. The game plays well, it really does, but it suffers from a tremendous lack of content. Um, I understand it was their first game, their first foray into the genre, and they've made a lot of mistakes that I hope they will learn from. But the single player content in the game is almost non-existent, and their DLC is way too expensive and not
Yeah.
not worth it, especially compared to what WWE is offering in that category. So I hope that we get another one. And I hope it fixes a lot of the issues they had with this one, because again, it was their first game. They didn't have a ton of capital to make it sort of as big as they wanted it. So we'll see what happens with that.
Is it
Uh,
is it done? Like, are they done developing for it? Like I think
I don't.
Tony Storm is the last DLC.
Yeah, that's the last DLC. We'll see. We'll see if they're done with it or not. I think it's going to depend on how the DLC does.
Gotcha.
So a game that did not have a cost or what do you call it, capital problem, but had a content problem is also on my disappointments list, which is NBA 2K24. After 23, which was an excellent game, 24 was a step back in almost everything. It was a step back in story for the career mode. It was a step back in gameplay. It was a step back in terms of its over reliance on currency, their paid currency. It's just a really bad version of that game, and sort of the culmination of a lot of problems that have been building in 2K's games for a while, specifically in NBA, because the pay to win is very strong in the NBA 2K series, and it's only gotten worse. So the good news is that is not a localized complaint. Just about everybody felt the same way. So hopefully it'll cause some things to change.
Don't worry though, they got the biggest feature in there still, which is Jake from State Farm.
Jake from State Farm does return, and you can still wear the khakis and the red shirt.
Like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Fuck you. They're paying you to put this shit in this game, and then you're charging me on top of that to buy shit.
Yep.
Fuck off.
Yeah, that's there are much more egregious sponsorships in that game as well. So
brought to you by the same publisher who put out Red Dead Redemption on Switch for $50.
Yes. So my last disappointment Anthony, I think, is the only person who mentioned it. It was also on his disappointments list, and that's Atomic Heart. I'm sure that's on Ken's list, but I thought that game was booty cheeks.
Anytime Ryan says something is booty cheeks, I think, oh god, it's the best thing ever. Like I love when he's like, that's good, that's booty cheeks.
I was so looking forward to that game because I love Bioshock games, and I thought the aesthetic of that game looked great, and I fucking hated it. I hated it.
He did that whenever we were talking about doing Gotham Knights. He's like, I'll try it again, but I kind of think that game's booty cheeks.
Yeah, so that's yep. That's where I'm at.
This man has a game on his list every year that's booty cheeks, but is on somebody else's top 10. Last year was High on Life.
No, that's true.
Sorry, what was last year's?
High on Life.
Oh,
yeah, that game sucked too.
That's right. He did say that was booty cheeks. You know what? That's going to have to be Ryan's officially going to have an award. The booty cheeks
of the year.
But we don't know. We don't know which one gets the award until he goes through his list and it's on one of ours, like top 10s.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. All right. So honorable mentions. So it's crazy to me that this game is on my honorable mentions list because it is a series that I would generally be on the booty cheeks list. But WWE 2K24 this year's game was great. It was great. And listen, I'm not a WWE guy. I think that a lot of the stuff they do is shady as shit and is pretty gross. And I think a lot of their executive leadership is pretty gross. But that game is really good, and they've figured out a lot of stuff in the last couple years. I mean, 2K20 might be the worst game I've ever played. It's definitely the worst game I've ever reviewed. And for them to get to where they're at now, in the release that they had this year, I think is pretty impressive. So I'm actually looking forward to the next WWE game, which has not been the case for a long time. So yeah, I had to at least mention it on my honorable mentions list. Next game on my honorable mentions list is Street Fighter 6. As Jay mentioned, the game plays fantastic. It looks fantastic. The only reason it's on my honorable mentions list and not on my top 10 is because I was hoping for better single player content, and it's just not there. Yeah. So I enjoyed what I played of the game, but my experience with a fighting game in 2023 is basically going to live and die on how much I enjoy it playing it by myself. And there's just not a ton here. The World Tour mode's not great. The arcade modes are fun, but they wear thin after a while. So, if I was still the me that used to play Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 4 and played online against people and all that, I'm sure that it would be a lot higher on my list. But as a single player game, I can't put it in the top 10. The other two that are on my honorable mentions list are games that I am convinced if I had played more of them this year, because really all I played of both of them was what would probably be considered the demo content. And in sense of Final Fantasy 16, it 100% is the demo content. So Final Fantasy 16 is the first one. I played the demo of that. I own the game. I have not had a chance to go back and finish it. If I had played more of that, I'm pretty convinced it would be on my list because it's the first Final Fantasy that I've really enjoyed in a long time. So that one is one that if I'm looking back at this list 6-8 months from now, I may wish was on the regular list instead of honorable mention. But I'm going to put it on there with the expectation that once I play more of it, it will climb its way up. And then the second game that's like that is Octopath Traveler 2, which I did not play enough of to qualify on my actual list. But if I had, would probably be pretty high up there. So I felt like I at least needed to mention it. Because once I get back into that game, I'm certain that, again, I'm going to wish that I had played more because it will probably it would have probably ended up in a pretty prominent position. All right, so now to the actual list. Number 10 is Super Mario Wonder. It's a great game. It's really fun. Was hurt by not being as good a multiplayer game as the previous entries in the series have been. And as somebody who looks forward to these games mostly as multiplayer experiences, both with my son and my wife, it just wasn't as good a multiplayer game as it should have been. But the game itself is fantastic. So it occupies the bottom spot on the list. Number 9, which is not on anybody else's list, and I wouldn't have expected it probably to be on anybody else's list, is Assassin's Creed Mirage. It is a very good small Assassin's Creed game. I know the sort of marketing was that they were going to make a game like the first one, or like the early ones. It's not really like that. I mean, it kind of is, I guess, depending on how you think of the early games. It's definitely not like Origins, Odyssey, or Valhalla, but it's also not really like the early ones either. It's closer, I guess, to that, but it does have, sort of the investigations, not the same way as the first game where you're like listening to conversations and stealing stuff. It does have some aspects of that, but not nearly as repetitive or small in scope as the first game was. Baghdad is fantastic. It's one of the better, in terms of city-based Assassin's Creed games rather than sort of an entire environment. It's one of the better ones. The missions so far are really good. The story is really good. The one big regret I have is Bassam's voice actor is not the same, and he doesn't sound as good. The voice acting in the game in general is not that great.
That's weird.
Yeah,
Why
it's
they did
very
that?
weird. I have no idea why, especially considering if there was anybody you would think they would want to lock down after Valhalla, it would be Bassam's voice actor, but
Yeah.
they did not. So you'd have to play it to see, but he's not as good. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad, but it's just not at the level that I generally expect from the series. But the gameplay itself is phenomenal. If you have been a fan of the series in the past and you're put off by the sort of open world RPG that the series has turned into, it's definitely worth giving the game a shot. I think there's a lot here that people who kind of got burned out on the open world games would really like. So it's worth probably taking a shot on. If nothing else, once it gets a little cheaper in price, or these games always end up in Game Pass, so you can wait for that. Number 8, excuse me, is Diablo 4. I finished that game, finished the story of that game, had an absolute blast with the story. I loved the characters. I loved the overall story itself. I loved the gameplay loop for the 45 or 50 hours or so that it took me to finish the game. And then I was absolutely 100% done with it. Have not picked it up, have not looked at a season, have not touched a controller with respect to that game since. And that's okay. I was completely fine with that just being a 45 to 50 hour story experience for me. And I had a blast with my time while I was playing it. So that's the way Diablo 4 will live in my mind.
Are you going to come back for the expansion?
We'll see.
Gotcha.
Probably, because I mean the story content is what would bring me back. So yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Number 7 on my list. This is another one that hasn't been on anybody else's list so far, and won't. I'll just say, Ken, this was not one that will be on your list. And that's Dragon Quest Monsters.
Oh.
Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. everybody who knows me knows I am not a Pokemon person. It's just not my
Pokemon.
jam. But this game is fantastic. It's really, really, really good.
I
The
did.
story is good. It's not great. It's good. And it kind of presents an alternate timeline to the events of Dragon Quest IV. But the actual monster collecting and synthesizing stronger monsters and farming for lower end monsters that you can use to synthesize monsters before you should be able to get them naturally, all that stuff is incredibly appealing to me. And the sort of hub world structure where there are 6 hub worlds that have 3 levels each, I think works really well for a game like this. It looks great. Now, listen, does it run well? No, it doesn't, because it's a Switch game, and they haven't made a Switch game that wasn't Nintendo that ran well in 3 years. But it runs good enough for the game that it is. If it was an action game, it would probably not work. But for a turn-based monster battler game, I think the performance is fine.
I actually did pick this up. I just haven't played it at all.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure I grabbed it before the price of the physical copy goes to the moon like the DS games did.
Yeah. I am, and I am still writing a review for it, so that'll be out soon, which is kind of weird, but that I'm writing a review for it after it's on my Game of the Year list. But I am almost 40 hours in to the game. So I mean, there's a lot to do. Now, listen, everybody knows that I'm a grindy kind of person, so I have done a lot of probably stuff that I didn't need to do, trying to get monsters that were above my pay grade. But it's definitely, I haven't been bored by any of my 40 hours in the game. It's been a blast the whole time. So if you're at all interested in Dragon Quest, or if you're at all interested in Pokemon style games, I would definitely check it out. It's really a lot of fun. All right, number 6, which has also not been on anybody's list, but I imagine will be on Ken's, is Gravity Circuit.
Oh, yeah, that's one of them.
So we were talking a lot about Shovel Knight earlier. Gravity Circuit is a Mega Man style game that has melee combat, kind of like Shovel Knight. And man, that game is amazing. The platforming is excellent and is hard as balls. The boss fights are a lot of fun. The level designs are really, really excellent. I talked a lot about Gravity Rush a couple weeks ago, so I'm not going to
Gravity Circuit.
The whole Gravity Circuit, sorry. I keep doing that. I talked a lot about it a couple weeks ago, so I'm not going to tread all that ground again. But if you're at all into Mega Man style games or retro 2D platforming sort of beat 'em up games, it is an absolute joy to play, and you should definitely check it out. It's not long. I mean, it's a game in that genre, so you can finish it in 5 or 6 hours probably. The Wily equivalent levels here are also very hard, very difficult, but never unfair, just difficult. So it is a game that everybody should go out of their way to play if that genre is interesting to you at all. And it's not expensive at all. It has been off and on sale on Steam for like $12 or $13. So it is a game you should play. If you have the option, don't play it on Switch, because you're going to end up spending a lot more money for a game that plays the same way as it does on Steam. So play it on Steam if you have the option. But excellent game. Everybody should play it. And it's a little disappointing to me that it didn't end up on anybody else's list, because I think if the rest of you guys had played it, it probably would have landed on there somewhere. Number 5, sorry, is Hi-Fi Rush. Love that game. It was for a period of time. Actually, all the games I'm going to talk about from here on out were my game of the year at some point in the year until the next one came out. So that can probably give you a little bit of clue as to what the rest of the games on my list are. But I absolutely fell in love with Hi-Fi Rush. The story was hilarious and great. The characters were all excellent. The gameplay obviously was fantastic. I can't wait for more content in that universe, and I really hope we get a sequel. And I will be there on day one to play the sequel because I absolutely love that game. It's fantastic. Number 4 is the last game that nobody's talked about yet. That is also, I guarantee, on Ken's list, and that is Jedi Survivor.
Yep, that's another one.
So that game got a lot of heat this year, deserved heat for the way it launched. But number one, they've cleaned that up now. And so if you were afraid to play that game because of some of the glitches that it had at launch, don't be afraid anymore because those are gone.
I've heard that's only console though. I heard the PC still has problems.
Yeah, so I have not played it on PC, so I don't know anything about either what the previous or current status of that is. So yeah, it's a good call out because I've only played it on PlayStation 5. But as a Star Wars RPG, the game is fantastic. It's better than the first one, and the first one was my game of the year it came out. So it is, it has the same kind of Souls-light combat, where you have to worry about, blocking and dodging, and it's, difficult without being unfair. But I absolutely loved that game. I thought the story was tremendous, and that's another one that I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do moving forward with the story on that game. So excellent game. Number 3 was Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, everybody's talked about that game so far, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on it. Although I will say, so as my second Lord of the Rings reference of the day, I said this when the game came out, that a lot of the Lord of the Rings books is about the travel, right, and the going from one place to another, and the things that happen when you're going from one place to another. And Zelda nails that better than just about any sort of action adventure RPG that I've ever played. There's just the going to places is just as much fun as the places, if not more fun than the places. And it's the ultimate. Hey, look at that over there. I wonder what's over there game. It's tremendous in that regard, and the fact that they were able to successfully pull off the underground area, the main level, and then the sky area is really an achievement. So, and to do all of it on the Switch is crazy. So there's wizards at Nintendo.
Wizords, really.
Wizrobes, yeah. I will say though that the things that hold it back from being higher up on the list for me are all narrative focused. I am, story is the most important thing in a game like that for me, and so sorry. I got distracted for a second.
You're going to talk about the teardrops being out of order?
Yeah, so sorry, somebody walked in the room. So the teardrops are the big issue for me in that that's the main source of story in the game, and you can find them out of order, and they autoplay. So unless you're super quick about skipping it, you're going to get spoiled on whatever happens right at the beginning, which usually leads from what was the end of the story bit before. And I wasn't as bothered by the actual story content as Anthony was, although I'm certainly not a fan of it. But the way the story is told is just haphazard for a game as big and as important as that. I was not at all a fan of the way the story is told in the game. Even if they wanted to tell it through the tiers, they could have made it so that no matter which one you found, it told you the next beat in the story. Instead of telling you a defined section of the story, depending on which one it was. I understand why they did that, because the designs they had on the ground were supposed to be specific to specific pieces of the story, but it doesn't make the actual way that it's told any better.
And it wasn't that well connected to what happened in the vision or whatever.
Correct. Yeah,
So
without and also without spoiling anything, they don't for as impactful as the end of those tiers should be, it doesn't really feel like it has much of an impact in when you'll discover them and find all of them. So yeah, I was not a fan of that.
They should have handled it the way the Breath of the Wild did, where obviously your method is smart if they want to keep the whole teardrop idea. But like the way Breath of the Wild had you go to specific areas that lined up with what happened in the past was smart. Like, here's a bunch of photos, find where this is, and then you can watch the memory. And then all those memories can be watched out of order because they don't they're telling bits of history to build up to a specific one that is played after you find all of them.
Right.
Like, that was a better setup. I don't know. There's just something about Tears of the Kingdom where I was like, really smart steps forward, and then a couple where I was like, I don't know why you would not fix that problem still.
Right. Yeah. All right. So number 2 on my list was Spider-Man 2. I talked about that at length when the game came out. I thought the story that it told was tremendous. One of the better Spider-Man stories in that they've ever done, non-comic book. It is just the characters are excellent. Jay said a lot more about it, so I won't retread everything that he said. But the traverse was fantastic. The game was fantastic, and the story was fantastic. So, in any other year, that game would have been my number 1. But it's not any other year; it's this year, and so this year my number 1 is Baldur's Gate 3. My experience with Baldur's Gate 3 is actually different, I think, than most of the rest of the guys that have talked about it. I know Jay finished it single player first, but I have not played any multiplayer, and so my experience with the game, I know, Anthony, for you and Drew and Terrence. And Terrence, you played a decent amount of it single player too, right? Before you guys started doing the multiplayer stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just didn't finish it.
And so I know for some of you guys, it's what you love about it is the sort of how it replicates a D&D game. I don't play D&D, and I didn't play this multiplayer, so I'm speaking about the game just as an RPG. And just as an RPG, it's one of the best RPGs that's come out in the last decade. It's excellent. The story is excellent. The voice acting is excellent. The characters are excellent. The gameplay and all the different things you can do are excellent. It's just a tremendous RPG, even outside of the fact that it replicates the D&D experience so well, which I'm glad to hear. And it's, a great game to play with friends. Even outside of that, just as a single player RPG, it's one of the pinnacles of the genre. And it's it has the distinction of being one of the rare occasions where the third game in a series is actually the best, because I prefer it to the first 2 Baldur's Gate games. It's just amazing. I don't know what else to say about it other than to say that it is now the new Morrowind, Knights of the Old Republic, Witcher 3, the RPG game that sort of breaks the genre for everybody that has games in process right now. They're all going to end up being compared to Baldur's Gate 3. So just like, everybody's narrative and, choice decisions and stuff got compared to Knights of the Old Republic after that came out, and just like everybody's open world got compared to Morrowind when that came out, and just like how everybody's, story choices and side quests and the ability to create a believable world got evaluated when Witcher 3 came out. I think everybody is going to be doing that with this game for the next 4 or 5 years at least. They're going to be comparing quest design. They're going to be comparing choice. They're going to be comparing story and voice acting. And they're going to compare all of it to this game. And that's, I think, the highest praise that anything in, this specific type of storytelling ever gets.
You make a really good point there, Ryan, about Baldur's Gate. So we are having completely different experiences than you are.
Absolutely.
So you're playing a game that is akin to a lot like maybe Dragon Age.
Yeah.
While we're playing a D&D game.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And it's very telling how I'm going to have a completely different experience whenever I play this game solo, because we're not seeing a lot of the characters, the other party members and stuff like that. And that's a huge aspect of this game. We go back to town and talk to them for a second, but the way we're playing it is more, the game is structured around us rather than structured around the AI party members.
Yeah, and they do an excellent job in this game of weaving your AI party members' stories into the main story and also into the places that you are. So I can't wait for a lot of you guys to play this game single player, because I think it's really going to open your eyes. As much as all of you love the game now, I think your opinion on it's even going to grow when you have a chance to play through it by yourself and see, the different pieces of each character's story and how they tie into the overall narrative. So
because we make choices, and our party members, they're not even around to be like, hey, I don't like that, or something like that. Like, none of that even happens, because we all make the decision ourselves. Kill that dude. All right.
we killed a potential party member and looted their corpse.
Yeah,
a party member with hours and hours of dialogue, with personalized quests that none of us will ever see in this playthrough, because we just simply never took the time to try to recruit this character.
Right thing.
So.
Who is this? Who is this?
You play a single player, you'll find out.
Okay.
We've
killed a lot of people, Jay. That's the thing.
I'm just gonna say,
we did.
Jay, I'm very thankful for your coyness.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't even going to say anything. I figured all of y'all would play it single player at some point, but there's been a couple of things, because the stuff that we've done, and that's what's crazy about Baldur's Gate 3, that all these different experiences. I like the fight with the ogre that freaking Anthony got us into. Like, I never even met that dude in my single player thing. I didn't even see that. I didn't even know he could be a summon or any of that shit. And a couple of things that I found. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is this the ogre that's like has a very good vocabulary? That ogre.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So in my playthrough, I recruited them as a summon, like a one-time summon that I could bring along with me. There are playable characters. Yeah, you can do that. There are playable characters.
Single player did it.
There are characters in the game that start as, there's one very prominent character that starts as just a person that's in your camp with you and is helping with things. And then after you finish a certain set of quests, they become a character that you can bring around with you and actually have in your active party fighting alongside you. There are several characters like that, actually. And then there are other characters that you will only recruit if you go down the evil path of the game.
Yep.
God, I've got to play this.
Playing with that,
player.
the evil path thing is pretty fun. Actually, I'm toying with trying. That game is it's insane. Like, it's just so much to do. Like, there's so much to it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you
crazy.
you have zero interest in this game.
Who, me?
No,
I think he's talking
Ken.
to Ken.
Oh, kid.
Nope.
Why? Oh my god!
It didn't launch on Xbox, man. That's what it is. You know what?
Yes, clearly, because
It
my
didn't
game of
launch
the
yet.
year was only on Xbox. I'm just saying.
Wait. Seriously, wait. Ken, you like Dragon Age?
Yeah, and I've tried Divinity. I tried Divinity Original Sin 2. I've tried the other Baldur's Gates, Neverwinter Nights. They're all just boring.
Oh my god, Ken.
Have you tried Baldur's Gate 3 though?
I have. I played about 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Jesus Christ. You read the cover. Come on, man. You can do better than 30 minutes.
Hey, you know,
Legitimate, dude. Like Ryan said it right. This is like combinations of, Dragon Age, The Witcher 3, everything, all the best parts of those games are in this game.
motherfucker, you never played Spider-Man 1.
I have it.
You can't come at me. If you cannot come at me and be like, well, why did you play this when you ain't played half the shit? Come on.
Yeah, I got it, though.
All right,
This is true. You have like 6-7 games on your list this year. You can't really be
But
saying
you
shit.
know what?
Something.
I played one of the damn best. I'll put it that way.
You did.
He
So-
did.
I'm gonna let that be the end of mine, and that
Okay,
seems like a
alright.
natural. That seems like a natural seg to Ken.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I have 2 games on my list. I mean, obviously one of them you know.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that nobody's talked about yet, but I have another one that nobody's talked about.
I'm surprised Mortal Kombat's is even going to be on your list.
It's at the bottom. It's also in the disappointment, so I'll just start there.
I figured it was going to be
Okay,
disappointing.
yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 1, the story, fantastic. The gameplay,
So good.
fantastic. This is the best playing Mortal Kombat in the 3D era. I said it. It's been said. It's the truth. Everything else around that fucking sucks. The skins, you have to grind for about 15 to 20 hours to unlock Fatality number 2 for every character. There are 30 plus characters.
Jesus Christ.
Fuck off.
I'm good.
Crazy.
Fuck off.
Or take out your credit card, you know?
Yeah,
do
no,
that.
you can't even buy it.
You can't?
No, you have to
No,
grind
those
it.
are on the character things. Yeah, you got to grind them.
Mm-hmm. Every character has their own mastery level, and you have to get to, I think it's like level 19 or something, to unlock Fatality number 2. Also, the brutalities are in here too. So if you want those, you got to grind those too. The invasions mode, it's just the fucking towers where, oh, here's a match where it doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to get shot by a rocket, or you're going to get poisoned, or you're going to get this, and then the computer's going to whoop your ass, and oh, what are you grinding for? Oh, I don't know, coins to spend on shit that you don't want? No, thank you.
I hate that type of artificial difficulty that they add to fighting games, man.
Oh,
There's
it's
random
the
shit's
worst.
happening to you. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's the worst. Like, and that's the invasions mode in a nutshell. That's what it is. Here's a fight with some shit that you need to deal with. No, thank you. But yeah, it's in my disappointments. Another disappointment is the year that was supposed to be the good fighting game, Street Fighter 6, is on my disappointment because other than the way it plays, I think the rest of that game is trash. The arcade mode is blah. That World Tour mode is one of the most boring and hackneyed things I've ever seen in my life. The microtransactions Jay talked about, absolutely just disgusting.
Yep.
Like, that game plays, it's Mortal Kombat the same way. Like, it plays awesome. It looks incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, because I'm not going online. Are you kidding? Them dudes online just smack me down in 2 seconds. Like, that's not fun. So that's on there. My last one on my disappointment list is I played through Diablo 3 about 6 times. I couldn't even finish like the first act of Diablo 4. I found it so goddamn boring. That game just, ugh. It is just not fun. And I booted it up 6 times since launch, and every time I play for about 20 minutes, and I'm like, this is just not fun. Like,
What class did you pick, Ken?
Yeah, didn't we play for a little bit?
You and I played during the early access, and I think I made it. Well, we played like an hour, 2 hours maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I played as the wizard.
Oh, okay.
The sorcerer.
Yeah, the sorcerer, and that game is just boring. Like the loot grind is terrible. The whole systems were like when you get a good thing, if you take it off, it's gone forever kind of deal. Like, all of that stuff just made me not want to play that game. It just wasn't fun. Honorable mentions, a lot of these are just because I haven't finished them. Sea of Stars, I loved what I played, but I never got a chance to go back to it. So that's on here.
Yes.
Gravity Circuit was the same way. I think I made it through 4 or 5 of the levels, and I loved it. I just haven't got back to it. Super Mario RPG, same thing. I got about halfway through, never finished it. Super Mario Wonder I did finish, but I just don't think it's... People saying it's the best Mario game in a long time, I'm like, no, it's not. It's really not. It's good, but it isn't even the best Mario game on Switch. I'm just going to say that. RoboCop, didn't finish it, but loved it. And honestly didn't finish it because of the problems Terrace talked about. Like, if I'm going to play RoboCop, I've got to dedicate an hour and a half to 2 hours to play it, and I don't usually have that amount of time. I would like to play it in like half-hour, 2-hour spurts, and you cannot play that game that way.
Nope.
And it just sucks because the game is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Another game that was really good on my honorable mentions, and I had to have 6, is Hogwarts Legacy. I don't give 2 flying shits about Harry Potter. I think the whole thing is dumb, but that game is a fucking great open world RPG. It's just great. Top 10. Number 10 is Mortal Kombat 1, because it just plays too good for me not to make the list. And I love Mortal Kombat. But in the year of Mortal Kombat hits the bottom of my list, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
You're the biggest Mortal Kombat fan that I know, and the fact that it's under your disappointment and so low on your top 10 says like more than any other review that I could possibly read.
Yeah, it's just, man, it hurts my soul, because if you give me MK11 structure, remove the gear system, and make it play like MK1, it's the best Mortal Kombat ever made. Like, just 100%. Number 9 is the game that's just taken such a beating today, and I don't understand it. I loved Atomic Heart. I really did. I played through the entire game. I actually started the DLC, but I never finished it.
Crispy Critters, go fuck yourself.
Oh,
Shitty
man.
fucking
Crispy
writing.
Critters is great. I love the Crispy
Jerk
Critters.
off writing and that stupid... I mean, it didn't even offend me to level other people, but I was like, I get it. The vending machine is horny. I
hated the vending machine. Every time I had to go to it, I was like, God damn it, not this stupid thing. But everything else I love. Like the enemy designs, the boss designs, the world design. I love it.
The combat was not fun.
The combat takes a while to get used to, absolutely.
It never got used to it. I was always like, this could be better.
Oh, it 100% could have been better, but I still got used to it and was able to navigate through it, so... Number 8 is the only game nobody's even uttered a word about, and I'm so shocked. It's Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name. It's so fucking good.
That was in my honorable list until I cut it down to 5.
Oh, man, that game is so good.
It was good.
Yeah.
It's bite-sized. I love that. I love that it's not a 50-hour game. You can knock it out in like 12 and have the full experience. It's pretty great.
Yeah, but if you know like the story, the little nods they do throughout the whole thing are so like the people you fight in the Coliseum, like dudes dressing up as dudes from the past game. It's so good.
Yes, it's so. Did you beat the game, Ken?
I'm at the end of chapter 4. So
okay,
really close.
I won't
to
say anything, but I ugly cried at the end of that game.
Yeah, I'm super excited to finish it. The only the part that drags is when you have to get your Akame level to level 10. Like, that part dragged a little bit. But other than that, I'm having a ball with that game. It's so good. Alright, it's time for my remake trilogy. So number 7's Metroid Prime. I don't give a fuck when it came out. That game is so fucking good. I think it's the only 10 I gave this year.
I was just saying it didn't feel right in my person, like with the amount that I had on my list already.
I mean, that's fair. Like, I just love it, and it's not the only 10. The other 10 is the number 1 game. I'm not gonna say that. But yeah, Metroid Prime. Number 6 is Dead Space, because goddamn, it's so good.
It's really good.
Number 5 is Resident Evil 4. You know, the trilogy of remakes were just so good, and Metroid's not. It's kind of a remake, kind of not, but. You know.
Well, I think the three of us that played both those games, we can all agree that Resident Evil 4 remake is better than Dead Space remake.
For what they did to it, yes.
Yes.
But goddamn, they're both really good.
They're both really good.
Number 4 is Hi-Fi Rush. That game, incredible. If you haven't played it, I can't believe you haven't played it. It's so good. And then the top 3, we've talked about these games ad nauseum, so I'm not going to go too deep into them. Spider-Man 2, unlike Ryan, I went into this game really hesitant. Like, how could this game be? It's just Spider-Man, right? It's more Spider-Man, but God, they really did a lot. And it just goes to show that if Insomniac was not part of PlayStation Studios, the PS5's first 3 years would have been super kind of meh. Number 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It's the only game this year that I beat twice and loved it both times. It was broke as fuck at launch, but it still was good. And then when they fixed it, I played through it again on a different system and loved it even more.
Let me ask you guys this, and this is kind of the thing that's holding me back from playing Jedi Survivors. I got about 15 hours into Fallen Order, and I lost my save.
Oh.
And it sucks. I don't want to replay 15 hours of that game just to go back to the part that I want. Can I skip Fallen Order and play Jedi Survivor? Is Jedi Survivor a better game than Fallen Order?
It is 100% a better game than Fallen Order.
But you
And
need
it
to
is.
recap.
If you-
You need a recap.
Yeah,
need a
and
recap.
they'll give you a recap at the beginning of this game, but it's purposely very sort of fragmented and stylistic the way they give it to you. So unless you kind of remember or know or went through the events of the first game, it's not really going to trigger anything the way they present the recap to you. So what I would do if I were you is either go on YouTube and just watch like a story recap, or just go on Wikipedia and read the synopsis of the first game.
Yeah.
And that'll get you what you need to play the new game.
Especially the
Okay, I
characters.
think that's probably what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, especially the characters, because like the relationship with like Marin and what's the Jedi that he travels with in the first game? What's her name?
Seer.
Yeah, like those two storylines in Jedi Survivor are fucking amazing.
Yeah, and also you got to know the backstory there for them to hit as hard as they do. So yeah, I would recommend, Jay, just trying to find a recap video on YouTube, one that sort of incorporates the cutscenes. But if you can't find a good one, then I think just reading the Wikipedia synopsis would probably be good enough.
Yeah, I think I can find a good one so far. It's like a story so far kind of video that a lot of prominent YouTubers have done. Yeah.
Yeah, just be careful that you don't end up stumbling on one that spoils this game. But it does. So the reason I say that is because there are some pretty big spoilers in the game.
Oh, 100%.
And I unfortunately spoiled a big one for myself within a half hour of starting the game, because I was curious about the way the game. So the way the game starts, and this isn't a spoiler. It's, as a matter of fact, I'm saying it because I wish somebody had told me this. At the very beginning of the game, no matter whether you played Fallen Order or not, you're going to be introduced to like a group of characters. You're not supposed to necessarily know them yet. And I, unfortunately, saw them and was like, wait, am I supposed to remember who that was from the first game, or who these people were from the first game?
Oh.
And so I looked up, and it spoiled some stuff.
Oh, I see.
So when you start the game, just be aware that there's going to be some characters early on that Cal is familiar with that you're not supposed to be familiar with yet.
Gotcha. I won't get you baited like you did.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, Lord.
You had a question, Terrence? You were gonna ask?
I did, yeah. So though, yeah, well, you beat it twice, so you can answer it. Do they let you? Is there like a boss rush mode? Can you replay boss fights? Because there's a couple of boss fights from the first one that I would really like to replay. One in particular, but you can't. Like, do they let you do that in this one?
I don't think so. No, I think there's a new game plus, but there's no boss rush mode.
Yeah, the closest thing
Damn,
you
that
get, Terrence,
sucks.
is a couple of the bosses are included in these force tears that
Mhm.
you can find where like you'll find a it's exactly what it sounds like, a tear, and you can go into it and it's like a combat challenge usually, or sometimes some of them are like traversal challenges, but
Okay.
a couple of them have basically souped up harder versions of boss fights. That's the
Okay.
closest you get.
I know what boss fight he wants to replay.
He, oh, what? From the first one?
Yeah,
Yeah, there.
yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
don't
yeah.
spoil it
Yeah,
just in
no.
case.
No,
But
never,
yeah.
never, never, never. But yeah, that man. But yeah, okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna play Jedi Survivor this year for sure.
It should
I
be
Yeah,
just, I don't know.
on
it's excellent.
Game Pass soon, I think,
It
right?
should
That's what
be.
I'm waiting
Yeah.
on. At
You
this
think?
point, I'm like,
Yeah,
man.
nice.
And then of course number one, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. 150 plus hours. I like Jay. I did everything. I upgraded my battery
Mhm.
fully. Did all the
Hell
depths.
yeah.
Did all the shrines. The only thing I didn't do was the Korok seeds, and I'm still playing it, so maybe I will do those. I
Oh,
just like
I'm
being in
too
that
late
world.
for Korok seeds, man. But yeah, that game. And the thing that's interesting to me is that like Ryan and Anthony brought up like the story element. I fully accept that the story in that game, especially the way that it is told, is not great. It's flawed and it could have been done much better. But the fact that the reason why it didn't bother me is because I never go into any Zelda game for the story. I always go in for the adventure and kind of the discovery of it and just the world, kind of just living in that world, being in that world, just kind of exploring that world. So it didn't really bother me. I never expected it to be good. So when it wasn't, it didn't bother me at all. So it's interesting what people have like
Well,
expectations
I
for
don't
and
think
for the
either of
story.
us are complaining about the quality of the story.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ryan's
I'm
main
not
concern
certainly.
is the delivery method of the story,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I
yeah. That's
agree
that's
with.
that's what I
And
also
in
also
my
mean as well.
particular
Yeah.
scenario, it's not that it's a bad story at all. It's just something happens in that story where, as a person, I suddenly felt weirdly uncomfortable about.
I know what you're
And
talking
I don't,
about.
and I'm not, and here's the thing: it's nothing like
What?
serious.
Oh, I know what he's talking about.
Like
Yeah.
it's not like a serious thing. Like I'm not saying like it's I was triggered by it, but like yeah, something in my brain just said I don't like
Let me
that.
ask you this question. Did you finish it?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I know what happens, but like to me, it was like by that point, I was just so kind of turned off by that aspect. I was like, I don't really want to play this anymore.
I
Go
can't
ahead.
give enough fan service to what Jay said earlier about that final battle. The little musical note that plays.
Uh,
It hit so hard during that battle.
it's yes. It's one of those situations where the little hair at the back of your neck kind of raises up. You're like getting goosebumps. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the culmination of my 100 plus hour worth of adventure. It's happening right now, and they did that way better than Breath of the Wild, in my opinion, with the presentation, the challenge, and just the overall way that everything works out at the end.
Yep, and it's crazy to think that like that game pulls a Lord of the Rings, where you think it's over,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it is totally not over. But anyway, that's it. That's my list. I tried to run through it quick because I know we're running deep, and but yeah, it was a damn good year. And Drew, I look
Yeah.
forward to your top
Absolutely.
3 games next year.
It's going to be top one, and it's just going to be like a dragon.
Yeah, you're talking about like a dragon for an hour. Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah,
be worth
pretty
it too.
much. I mean, to be fair though, it comes out before your business goes down, so you got time.
Yeah, he's
That's
gonna
what I
need it
plan on
because
doing.
that game looks like it's gonna be like a 100-hour game with all the content that they're talking about
Exactly.
already.
And I'm
It's
going to
neat.
get the ultimate weapon like I did in Like a Dragon. So it is what
Man,
it is.
yeah,
I'm excited. It's only
damn, I'm
like
excited.
January. January's crazy, man. Like we have what 2 or 3 contenders. Like you've got Like a Dragon, you've got Tekken, you've got Prince of Persia. There's another game I'm
Mhm.
forgetting that's
You
coming
have
out.
in January specific because it's I look at it as January plus the first week of
Oh, Suicide Squad.
February.
That's the other one I was thinking of. Suicide Squad is the other. I know a lot of
Yep.
people are kind of sour on that, but after, I think it looks good.
Persona 3 Reload for me. That's kind of
Oh,
the big
yeah.
one.
God, I forgot about
And
that one.
then of course, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as well. That's a huge one.
People have already pegged that as
Um,
game of the year, and I'm just kind of chuckling. I'm like, man, if it goes the way I think it's gonna go story-wise, I'm gonna be out. I'm sorry.
Bro, we have no idea how that story is gonna go, despite it quote unquote being a remake, because it's not a remake, it's a whole different story that they're
That's
telling.
the problem. Is at
So
the end of that first one, it's like this just went somewhere I did not want it to go.
did it? I mean, like, I'm interested to see where it goes. Like, I
Just
don't
make a
want to
new
retread
game.
familiar grounds.
Just make a new game if you want to change the story. Don't call it remake.
I fully agree with you. They should not have called the first game remake. I think that kind of soured a lot of people's expectations on what they ended up getting, and I get that. But once you are over that naming fiasco, I think it's perfectly fine
I'm
to
gonna
what it is.
say that the differences don't have as much impact if you know it's going to be different going in. So the name remake implies
Yeah,
it's going to
that's
be the
true.
same thing.
Yeah,
It's one of the few
they
times I'll
Kojima
give them a
this.
break. Yeah, I think that was kind of the point. Was like, hey, it's you remember, but plays a bit different. Actually, nope, never mind.
Now it's gonna be all Kingdom Hearts, and I'm like, I'm out.
If it gets that far, even I'm gonna be out because I don't like Kingdom Hearts 2. But I love the first Final Fantasy 7. Well, intergrade, I suppose. Let's put it. And what they did with the characters, even the small moments, they expanded and put it into such a light that was so enjoyable. So I have the highest expectations for Rebirth. I hope if they can even come close to meeting it, I'd be satisfied. But
Well, I hope
there's so
they
much
do.
speculation. I'm excited.
I hope they do because for me, Final Fantasy's been on a downward trajectory for a while. So
Yeah, I mean, 16 was also on my honorable mentions until I cut it out for just to keep my 5. It's as a part of a spectacle and the presentation of the visuals, the music, Final Fantasy 16 is exceptional. However, as a Final Fantasy game, as an actual RPG game, it is no longer the game that you were expecting to play. It's like it plays more like a spectacle fighter than it does an actual RPG game. You can't even control any of your characters. You just have the one character from the beginning all the way to the end, and that's basically it. So it misses so many marks in terms of being an RPG game, but it makes up for it. And a lot of the things that it does with the the set pieces are so insane in that game. But you're right.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean, Final
what
Fantasy has been in a down point. Go ahead.
what
Ryan.
what you're describing is the reason why it's the first Final Fantasy game I've been interested in playing in
Mm.
yeah,
years.
it's funny. Like
So
Wombat comes back
It's
around
very
for like
different. Yeah.
the peculiar Final. I'm surprised he wasn't into 15 because 15 was very different.
yeah.
It
And
it
I
was
love my
different.
I
Yeah.
love my RPG games, and I love turn-based RPG games, but
Mhm.
I could never get into Final Fantasy. But this one, the demo at least drew me in for sure.
It was
15
a
is
lot of that.
what won me back.
15 has some good points too. I know a lot of people love to shit on 15, and I get it. That game has a lot of flaws, but it does a lot of things right too.
Yeah, I liked
And
15.
yeah. I mean, the games have their pros and cons. I'm not sure if you're gonna like 16 more than your coveted Mystic Quest, Ryan, but
Well,
they're
nothing will ever be better than Mystic Quest. So
yeah, you're right. You're right. That's always going to be the goat. But I'm sure if you stick with 16, you're going to see some set pieces of the scale and size of which you've never seen in a video game before.
I mean, to be fair though, Final Fantasy 14 drops on Xbox this year, so I mean, it's over. It's
I
Jover.
am gonna actually play. I am gonna
It's
actually
over.
play that as well, because
Ryan, you do not have time for an MMO. Come on, man. Don't lie
no,
to me.
I don't. But I at least want to check it out because it's one that I haven't ever played, despite the fact that I enjoy MMOs.
So good. It's too good. That's its problem. Is it's too good. When I played it, I didn't play anything else. Nothing.
I want to retire and play Final Fantasy 14. That's kind of like where my end game goal is right now. I just want to play this MMO that everyone has been talking it up since for like the decade and a half, and I've never been able to play it for longer than like 2 hours outside of that one very specific time on PS4. So
Man, I
it'd be nice.
sank hundreds of hours into that game, and then I just was like, I need to stop. I wish I could do that with Overwatch. That'd be awesome.
Well, why don't you Why don't you not play Overwatch and play Final Fantasy 14 instead?
I don't.
in the
At
time
this
that you
point,
play Overwatch?
at this point, I don't think I'll ever stop playing Overwatch until they kill the servers.
You're gonna be running your own private dedicated servers and have like a GoFundMe for your servers, and so that you can wrangle together enough players to play it.
I'll just play versus AI for the rest of my life.
I don't think even you'll do that.
Speaking of dedicated servers, my GOAT MMO. I know we're not doing news, but my GOAT MMO got their private servers officially recognized by Cryptic. So
yeah, they got tired of fighting it. I think is what I read.
Yeah. So we get City of Heroes back. Love it.
All right, well, that's it for the 2023 games. 2024 is looking pretty good, so hopefully we'll have a lot of games to enjoy and talk about this year. But that's it for our games of the year. Hope you all enjoyed it. Like I said, I'll read through the emails and the tweets next week, so be sure to send those in. And as always, send us emails to podcast@ztgd.com. Everything else is great. Half the people are already gone because, we've been doing this for 3 hours. But the rest of us are leaving now, so peace out, bitches.
Alrighty. And it goes something like this.